check, mic check. Seem to be good there. Welcome in. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time it is for you. And the time is almost here as we are about to go live with the 2.4-hour qualifier of the 24 Hours in Hell, powered by Xbox Community League and Aztec Racing, and in charity for the Wildlands Firefighter Foundation. We have qualifying starting here in about 15 minutes. It is going to be a split qualifier between our two classes. We have GT3 and GT4 cars out on track today. GT3 will go first. They will have 15 minutes, which is essentially a two-shot qualifier. As long as they can make it around the Joker lap, that will take them about 2 minutes, as long as they are very quick out of the pit lane. And that would give them 2 laps, 1 full lap, and then the ability to start 1 more lap before the GT4s get rolling out of the pits. Any lap that is going to be completed must be started by the time the timer hits 15 minutes, as the rest of the qualifying session is going to be allotted for the GT4 drivers. Quite a few teams here today in the qualifier. 30 teams registered, 11 GT4s and 19 GT3s. Participation in the qualifier today is not mandatory, but if you would like to have a spot higher up on the grid, or if you feel like you've got a chance to win it, the best way to ensure your chance is to be here in the qualifier and get started towards the front of the grid. Of course, being an endurance race, starting at the front does not always matter, but it definitely helps, especially more than starting at the back. There will be driver swaps today, 65-minute stint timers, which would give us 2 stops in this 144-minute race today, as we are on board with Bumblebees in the GHR K1 Esports BMW GT3, as they were coming out of the Kleine carousel there onto the Dottinger. It will be a very interesting qualifying. Currently the conditions cloudy and dry, but we do have a significant chance of rain. There is definitely a chance of rain in the qualifying session. The VRC Competition machine currently top of the timing boards in this practice session. Obviously, this does not matter anything towards the qualifying. But currently, the VRC Competition machine showing the pace here in practice. In GT4, the old GOATS AMG, Mercedes AMG GT4, top of the board for GT4. A little over a minute behind that time of the GT3. And as we have about 12 minutes before we get started with our qualifying, I'd just like to welcome everyone in. This is the 2.4-hour qualifier before the main event, the 24-hour next weekend. Race start will be around this time next weekend, and it will be a relay-style broadcast. There will be multiple broadcasters on shift for the 24-hour in Hell official broadcast. About 10 minutes left, and we will have a server reset before we get started or get thrown into the qualifier. Once again, GT3s will go first. They have 15 minutes to set their qualifying lap times. And that is just the qualifier for the qualifier, the pre-qualifying, if you will, as the race is what will be setting the grid for the main event next weekend. Do not have all of the teams entered in the session, but we do have more that are slowly trickling their way in. Quite a few teams that are with different esports teams and some privateer teams. A couple teams from the Xbox Community League official esports team. Once again, this event is brought to you by Xbox Community League and the Aztec Racing League, and is also the 24 Hours in Hell is in support of the Wildland Firefighter Foundation. Coming up in the chat shortly, there should be a link to donate to their cause. It is a charity that helps injured and deceased firefighters and their families. Wildfire firefighters are not the only ones that receive that, but it is just a general firefighter charity. There is some rain showing up on the forecast in half an hour. We would not reach that time in this session as we are 10 minutes, or actually around 9 minutes away from our server reset for the qualifier, as we have a few more of our teams cycling into the server. Now I would like to thank Xbox Community League and Aztec Racing personally for giving me the opportunity to broadcast this 24-hour in hell qualifier race. I would like to remind everyone, if you are just tuning in or if you are driving, make sure that you stay hydrated during this race, as I will be doing the same. Have to make sure that the vocal cords are lubricated, because I will be doing a lot of talking here in about half an hour. The BMW is definitely showing some pace for now. That Velocity Endurance Racing Team Porsche 992 GT3 are definitely showing some pace as well. But not too many valid lap times out there. And another aspect of this race that we may see is going to be driver swap practice, as there will be driver swaps during this qualifier. Only one required, only two drivers required to be into the server for the driver swap to not get a penalty. Solo drivers will have a time penalty added on to the end of their race. Could be nothing to worry about. Could displace you a couple positions. Depends on what that penalty will be. And with 30 teams registered and about 3 drivers per team, if not more, we have about 90, close to 100 drivers registered for this 24-hour endurance race that will be held next weekend. And we will have a server reset here. Or we had a server reset. Our server reset should be coming in about 5 or 6 minutes. Copy goes deep at the chicane at the end of the GP Strecke. Couple cars coming through behind. A gaggle of Ferrari 296 GT3s. A couple Super Swede Racing Team cars here, rocking those Swedish liveries on those Ferrari 296. Quite a few Ferrari 296 here today. One of the exclusive esports teams cars, actually both of the exclusive esports teams cars are Ferrari 296. Ferrari 296, a very popular car today. And the 5E East Schuld Motorsport BMW GT3 with that purple and black livery. Very pretty livery on that car. And the United E Racing BMW GT3 effort with the Pixel Motorsport BMW GT4 coming into frame just behind. Multiple Old Goats teams. We have an Old Goats AMG, an Old Goats Porsche, and an Old Goats Aston Martin Vantage. I believe there may be more Old Goats teams, but there are officially 3 entered now, and they are doing some laps together, rocking very similar colored liveries. As Clint Renz goes wide at the exit of Armberg as they go to head down the hill towards the compression into Fix Row, or Foxhole if you will, before you come up the hill into Adenauer Forst. Very, very tricky chicane. Very easy to go too deep into Adenauer Forst. Late apex here into the first entry apex, and then early apex out, trying to get that car hung as wide as possible. A stepped curb on the exit that you are able to use can be tricky, especially in the wet. As the 2 sister cars here just making their way around the track together, as the Cayman GT4 goes ahead of the Aston Martin GT4. Exclusive Esports now at the top of the boards with an 8:11.8. The VRC Competizione car still in second here in practice, as the pace is starting to show a little bit. Not everyone has set a valid lap time though, so there is still plenty of time to get those laps in. But maybe you don't want to waste your good laps, you just want to get out there and get some practice and save the push laps for later. Another aspect of endurance racing here is making sure that you have the driver that you want in the car, your fastest driver in the car for qualifying. Likely will be your driver, or one of your drivers in the car here, as Bumblebees goes into the wall just before Sabine Schmidt's curve. Used to be called Nordkehr, now called Sabine Schmidt's curve after her passing. Then down the hill into Hatzenbeck. Very tricky section. Very easy to get congested here, as there is not much room for passing as you come through Hatzenbeck. Very easy to go wide, very easy to go into the wall, and the walls are the threat here at the Nordschleife. There is no runoff, or minimal runoff. The only runoff that is on the track is going to be at Schwedenkreuz and Arenberg, which you better get pointed and slow that car down, because there is not much runoff as Bumblebees comes through Flugplatz, now headed down the hill towards Schwedenkreuz. Very, very tricky, fast left-hander here, flat out in GT3 cars. No brakes, no lift, and then bring that car over to the left as fast as possible and slam on those brakes to bring that car around through Arenberg. Then you will head down the hill into Foxhole, into the compression. As it is a short run, but full throttle matched with downhill, you almost reach your top speed by the time you get to the compression and head back up the hill. This curb no longer exists, but there is a curb on the inside that you will get a little bit of a tire cut on before you come through Adenauer Forst. A little bit of a bobble from Bumblebees in the GHR K1 Esports car. The Euro Titans endurance effort out on track as well. Also just coming into Adenauer Force. And there is our server reset. And welcome back. Rain is currently in the forecast. This is just a 5-minute practice session. The buffer between quali or buffer between practice and quali, as the Old Goats Porsche GT4 effort, the first car out on track to get some practice in, will be coming through the Joker lap to start, or maybe doing a pit practice here as your pit box would be solidified. Definitely could be a practice pit stop. Anyone else now coming down the GP Strecke? The Fabi ist Schuld Motorsport BMW GT3 effort, also out on track, chasing down that Porsche Cayman GT4. One of the Super Swede number 1 out on track. And just a couple minutes left before we get started with GT3 qualifying. Once again, it is going to be a split qualifier. GT3 will set their lap time, and then GT4 will set theirs. GT3 have the first 15 minutes of the 30-minute qualifying session, and then GT4 will have the latter 15 minutes. Any GT3 cars must start their second flying lap before the timer hits 15 minutes, otherwise that second lap is invalidated. And as we have more cars rolling out on track, do we get some laps, or do we just have some pit practice trying to find that pit box? The Old Goats Porsche Cayman GT4 is out on track, and they are looking to be getting a little bit of hot track practice. Some traffic out there on track, especially in the wet, could be good practice this early. Pixel Motorsport doing a practice pit stop, that BMW GT4 effort. Super Swede number 2 now out on track. The Schwitzer Motorsport car coming out of the Advan kink. And we are having some issues with the link for the charity donations to the Wildland Firefighter Foundation. and the XCL and ATR PayPal. But there will be a solution coming soon. As we have about 15 seconds left before the timer comes down to 0 here in the short practice buffer between the qualifying, and quali has started now. And out on track, who is the first to take advantage of that open track? GT3s have the track to themselves. The VRC Competizione car rolling. And almost losing it, almost going around the Team Titans. That was not the Team Titans, that may have been the Euro Titans Endurance, that green and gray. It looks to be Euro Titans Endurance BMW GT3 out on track first, and it is absolutely pouring rain. Solid rain lines with rain increasing. It is going to be an absolute flood here in quali, and I don't think there is going to be enough water displacement to start to develop that wet line. It is going to be a very, very tricky qualifying here for all cars involved. That Euro Titans Endurance car going off at the Dunlop hairpin, heading up towards the Schumacher S. As all of our GT3s, or the majority of our GT3s, trying to get out on track. And they will have to come through the Joker lap, restart the lap timer, and then get back out there to get on with their qualifying. Euro Titans Endurance still the leading car out on track, and they will be the car out front with the open air. The Pioneer, as they almost lose the rear coming through the advent curve up into the chicane at the end of the GP Strecke. Will now peel right at the end of the GP Strecke, the GP final turn, to do the Joker lap and get that car righted onto the pit straight to come across the line and start their first flying lap of 2. They will have this lap and one more. Looking around the 8-minute 10s, 8-minute 20 seconds, probably times closer to the 8-minute 20s, maybe even 8-minute 30s here in the rain. And that will give the drivers some time to get another lap started, but no time for mistakes. You need to get this car around the track, put this lap in, and if it's invalid, just keep on pushing and try to get another. Cannot afford an incident with the wall. You do not have enough time to make it around the track one more time. If you are going to set a lap, it's got to be a quick one. As the Euro Titan Endurance car coming through the Dunlop hairpin. And will be the first car to set a flying lap. Granted that that lap is valid, almost going a little bit wide at the Schumacher S. Trying to get those wet tires some heat generated in them. And this will be something to deal with the car setup. You have to have these cars set up for these variable conditions during the 24-hour race. We will likely be seeing rain during 24 hours. During this 2.4 hour, it could be that we go dry and stay dry, but during the 24 hours, that opens up a lot more of a window for error, or a lot more of a window for rain to develop. And we may be getting a server reset here shortly. I think we have had a team to get the car switched over, so we may get a server reset here shortly. And thank you everyone for following. If you appreciate the broadcast, if you would not mind, consider subscribing. as it would greatly support the broadcast effort. Still with the Euro Titan endurance effort, as we do get that server reset. We will be back shortly. Now back into the server, and it is dry conditions, a little bit of sun poking through, as those drivers get a last chance for another pit practice. The pit boxes will be changed, as we have had this server reset, and the entering order will be changed. Pit practice is crucial. You need to know where your pit box is, but also to avoid any pit lane speeding penalty. Something that can happen here is that the pit lane, or the pit limiter board that marks where the pit limiter must be engaged and the speed limit must be hit before you enter the pit lane, otherwise you will be awarded a penalty. That board can get knocked down, so familiarizing yourself with the pit entry without that board being there is also another crucial aspect of the race. There are not many things that you can be reliant on, that being brake boards, pit limiter boards, as Fabius Schuld, that BMW GT3 effort going wide at the Schumacher S. And then the GHR K1 Esports effort going past them on track. Not enough time to get a flying lap in here in practice, but enough time to get around the track, get a feel for the car, and find your pit box, which will likely be what the majority of cars out on track are doing right now. And it is a practice flying lap for the GHR Esports team. At least a flying lap start. Team Titans BMW also out coming through the advent curve up the hill towards the chicane. Couple minutes left here in this second free practice buffer, and the question is now raised, will we see rain in qualifier, or is that a lucky break for any teams that maybe were a little hesitant in terms of the rain in the quali? Will we have better conditions? Will we have worse conditions? Will we have changing conditions? Anything is possible. We could have a dry track that gets rain. We could have a track that has just rained and will be developing. The time of quali does not change, but the conditions are completely variable. And only one way to find out. We have to get there first. The Schwitzer Motorsport team doing a practice pit stop here. VRC Competizione team coming through Sabine Schmidt's curve now. Fatch GT doing a practice pit stop. The Super Swede number 2 team Coming through the Mercedes arena now, heading down towards the Yokohama S. Pro Endurance team in that Fanatec liveried Porsche Cayman GT4 coming out of the Dunlop curve. And the old Goats Porsche out on track, coming out of Hatzenbach, or coming into Hatzenbach, that is. Going off the track, and that is exactly what can happen any time during the 24-hour race. Any sort of mistake like that, you better get those mistakes out of the way early. You cannot afford them in the qualifying, but you also cannot afford them in the qualifier, and you definitely cannot afford them in the 24-hour race. It is 24 hours, so anything is possible, and there will be incidents in a 24-hour race. It is extremely unlikely to have a perfect race through and through, but it is not impossible. But any time that you are able to save by not having to repair damage is definitely time that can be put into your pocket. 10 seconds away from server reset here, and we are now reset, and these are the changing conditions that I was a little bit afraid of, as we are now rain. Well, now it shows rain and increasing rain, not quite raining as hard as previous, and instead of a flooded track, we may have a track that will develop somewhat of a racing line, as that GHR K1 Esports team, the first out on track, was the Euro Team Endurance, or the Euro Titans Endurance out first. Now the GHR K1 Esports team, and rain on track with rain increasing. It will be a definitely wet track for the GT4s later on, but hopefully the track will be a little bit more developed by then, and the GT4s will have an easier time. It is on the GT3s, though, to get that water displaced early on, as they will have the tougher conditions. They will go on to the green track. As the GHR team coming through the Michael Schumacher S, very crucial to just get whatever tire temperature you can built into those wets, but this is also a good testing time to see how on the money you are with your wet tire pressures, as tire pressures through long laps such as the Nordschleife Endurance Circuit are very, very hard to get perfect. As I do have a link in the chat for donations to the Wildlands Firefighter Foundation, but it does not, or it will not track the XCL donations. So if you would like to hold off, we will have the official donation link shortly. As the GHR K1 Esports team does give the lead on track to the exclusive esports XCL official team, Ferrari 296, driven by Cozy Lerner right now. And Cozy Lerner will be leading the field in qualifying. And as everyone is getting their cars warmed up, getting them ready to get out and set these flying laps, Cozy Lerner should be the first to bring home a flying lap and set the pace. as Cozy Lerner is about to be the first to turn left at the end of the GP Strecke and onto the Nordschleife Strecke. And Cozy Lerner makes that left turn, and we are now onto the green hell coming through Sabine Schmidt's curve to start the GT3 qualifying. The rest of the field is out on track. The AERT Scano commanded Euro Titans Endurance BMW also on track with the Fabiist Schuld, now about to make that left turn onto the Nordschleife Strecke. The second of the XCL official team cars on track. The Schwitzer Motorsport Ford Mustang GT3, the Dark Horse Mustang, a little bit of a laggard making it onto the Nordschleife Strecke, but will be heading out there shortly. The Team Titans 314 car also on track. I believe that may be a sister car to the Euro Titans Endurance. GRL Motorsport now out on track, heading up towards Flugplatz. The Velocity Endurance team, which for a very short amount of time was at the top of the timing boards in practice earlier. United E-Racing also out on track. VRC Competizione, Orion Racing, Fats GT Esports team, Super Swede Racing team number 1, Super Swede Racing team number 2, and the AMG Motorsport Mercedes AMG GT3 team. For K1 Esports, Bumblebees is in the car right now. And Cozy Lerner still leading the field through the lap, as they are now coming down into miss, hit, miss. Missed the first apex, hit the second apex, missed the third apex, and then hard braking for the tight hairpin chicane hybrid. The rain is increasing, does seem to be leveling off by the time we get to the end of qualifying, but I don't think it will be too much to help out the GT4 drivers. At least it will be an open field, or a level playing field for those GT3 drivers. And Cozy Lerner out here in front with the XCL Esports team, using that open air to their advantage, should have no traffic ahead and should be able to get this lap done without an issue. As we will see what the lap times are going to look coming through the Bravery corner of Mutt Curve, as we are now heading into the tricky section of the track. Some people call this the true transition of the track, where you head back up the hill towards the carousel, as the exclusive esports team, the first to bring us into the carousel in this GT3 qualifying. A little bit of an early exit of the carousel and a slight mistake, having to check up and keeping the car on track. An absolutely perfect effort to keep that car out of the wall, as we get glimpses of this Ferrari 296 through the trees. But those kinds of mistakes are the kinds that you need to avoid. That will take a couple seconds out of the lap, but it does keep the car in one piece for another lap coming through Vipperman. Very, very fast, very fun, very tricky section. as we now get set up to head down towards Brunchen, aka YouTube Corner. A little touch of the curb on the inside and fully onto the outside curb is a little bit risky, but as long as you keep that car pointed straight, should be okay. Then on the brakes up the hill. These curbs very, very tricky to use here as you now run through the short S's section up towards Flonsgarten. The jump, probably not going to take the jump here in the rain. As Cozy Lerner now takes us through the S's, very, very tricky here in the wet. As we come up through Schwabenschwanz and eventually into the Kleine Carousel. Cozy Lerner will be the first to set a valid lap time. Does not guarantee that it will be the fastest though, as there are a few cars behind, a little bit of traffic here. The Euro Titans endurance effort with, I believe, that is the 548 of the Orion Racing effort coming through the Kleine Carousel now, and that is probably going to be a pass down the Dottinger. First down the Dottinger, though, the exclusive esports effort commanded by Cozy Lerner will be the first to set a flying lap and set the pace that the rest of the GT3 drivers will have to beat, and will have about 3 minutes in excess to get another lap started. Down on the brakes through Tiergarten, trying their best to get that car slowed down, and does so, coming across the start-finish line for the pit straight. What will it be for GT3? An 8:47.4, and that is the time to beat for GT3, and that will be it for now, or they are just trying to get a better setup in the car. The sister XCL car 1 second off the GHR K1 Esports team, 12.5 seconds off, but with that car warmed up, now going after that second lap. The Euro Titans Endurance 2 seconds behind that time of the K1 Esports team. And GRL Motorsport to the top of the timing boards by 2/10 ahead of the XCL number 787 Ferrari 296. As the rest of the field is cycling through, Fabi Ischuld up into P4, United E-Racing P7 currently. P8 now, as Super Swede number 2 has demoted them down, with Wasp the second at the wheel in that car. Schwitzer Motorsport up into P4 as they come across the line in that Ferrari Mustang, or not Ferrari, Ford Mustang GT3. A lot of Ferraris out here on track, as we are awaiting some other times. The Team Titans car unable to set a valid lap the first lap there, and quite a few cars still not setting a valid lap. The VRC Competizione team now coming down the Dottinger, with Super Swede number 1 eclipsing Super Swede number 2. Super Swede number 1 currently P7, Super Swede number 2 currently P9. And Fatch GT up into P7. Still waiting for a couple more cars to come across the line. Car number 992, the Velocity Endurance Racing team. Very, very quick car, was showing the pace in free practice earlier. Will have this lap, and they will barely meet the time requirement to get this next lap started, as they have only 1 minute and 30 seconds now to make it to the line. Should be no issue, as they are only a few seconds away, about 20-30 seconds away from the line. But they do not have any room for a mistake. Hard on the brakes through Tiergarten and Hohenrain, getting that car slowed down before they head back onto the pit straight. a little bit of traffic, almost an incursion with traffic. And for the Velocity Endurance Racing team, it is P5 currently, and I think that is going to be an end to their qualifying session. Will not have enough time to make it around the track to start another qualifying lap. They do drop it off the jacks, though. Back onto the jacks there. Team Titans number 314 that we saw just coming through the Joker lap in the background with the Velocity Endurance Racing team Porsche. That Velocity Endurance Racing team back out on track, but I don't think they're going to be able to make it around back onto the Joker lap with enough time to set another lap. I think their qualifying is over, and P5 will be the best that they can do currently. The VRC Competizione team not setting a lap, and car number 91, the United E-Racing team, a yellow flag at Flugplatz, and back into the pit lane. That will bring an end to their qualifying. Now the GT4s, it is on them, as they are now engines fired up, ready to go, as they start queuing up at the end of the pit lane. Old Goats Aston Martin Vantage GT4 will be the first out. The GHR K1 Esports team, they are rolling, but their qualifying is over. I think someone may need to notify them that they are no longer eligible for qualifying as they come out on track ahead of some of these GT4s. The Old Goats Aston Martin Vantage. The Old Goats Aston Martin GT4, followed by the Old Goats Porsche GT4. We had a little bit of technical difficulty there, no issue. The Old Goats Porsche, the next car behind. But does GHR K1 Esports team stay out? They do, but their qualifying is over. Same for the Velocity Endurance Racing team. They no longer have any time to set a qualifying lap. Their qualifying is over in GT3. I think Race Control may need to get in contact with those teams and let them know. And the Switzer Motorsport Porsche Cayman GT4 abandoning the lap, heading back into the pit lane. Team Titans number 314, they did start their final flying lap before the timer did hit 15 minutes and bring it into GT3 qualifying. GHR K1 Esports team does make the left-hand turn, but I think they are going to be under a rude awakening. Same for the Velocity Endurance Racing team. They are actually now back out on track. They have restarted. It could be just doing some practice, but I don't think they need to be on the track currently. Switzer Motorsport out on track. And who is the leading GT4? I believe it was the Old Goats Aston Martin Vantage, but they have now, unless they came through the Joker lap just now, car number 777, the NRW Performance team, and that Camaro GT4R, the Camaro ZL1 GT4 that is. Pixel Motorsport may be the leading car here. The Old Goats Porsche was just behind. And Switzer Motorsport, they are ahead on track, but they were coming through the Joker or they came in later to start their lap. They did abandon their first lap, so I believe they may be just coming through to start another lap. GHR K1 Esports team back into the pit lane. I think the word finally got to them. Or they are rolling back out on track. Switzer Motorsport coming out of the Advan curve up the hill towards the chicane. And quite a few GT3 drivers not setting a valid lap, they will be starting in the pit lane behind the GT4s to allow a buffer for the GT4 drivers as Schwitzer makes the turn at the Joker lap. And it may be Pixel Motorsport out ahead to start. As actually, no, they come through the Joker lap as well. The number 89 Spritzer, as I hope I said that right. Mercedes AMG GT4 out on track, coming through Sabian Schmidt's curve now. And the number 43, what looks to be number 43, but I don't see a number 43 on the board. The number 42, Old Goats Vantage, out ahead on track, the leading GT4 in GT4 qualifying. GRL Motorsport still top of the timing boards in GT3, as there are a few cars still out on track to set another flying lap. Currently, GRL Motorsport number 1, Exclusive Esports number 787 number 2, and Exclusive Esports number 788 number 3. That is your podium in qualifying. Very, very squirrely exit into the chicane at the end of the Dottinger Hoa and into the pit lane, abandoning the lap, smashing the foam board at the Joker lap, and then a practice pit stop for the GRL Motorsport effort as they come into the pit lane. Fabi East Schuld Motorsport looking to improve here, still on a lap and still on a valid lap. Car number 41, the Old Goats Porsche, off the track at Arenberg, and they did return back to the pit lane. Is it going to be an improvement for Fabi East Schuld? It is, up to P5 for that BMW GT3 effort. They're on to the third row. Next car is coming down the line, Fats GT Esports. They have quite a bit of time to improve upon, and the track is still continuing to rain. There's still more rain coming down on the track, and I don't see any sort of a resemblance of a wet line developing yet. There may be in some spots, but you can't see it here as they come down the Dottinger. And as Fatch GT is coming up into Tiergarten and Hohenrain, will it be an improvement, a lift, and then hard on the brakes? Will it be an improvement? Just needs half a second to improve one spot, needs 4 seconds to improve two. What will it be for the Fatch GT team? And it stays the same, P8 for Fatch GT, as long as no one is able to improve upon their time. The number 992 Velocity Endurance Racing team did come across the line, but their lap was invalid. The 787 Exclusive Esports team abandoning their lap and doing a practice pit stop. And we should start seeing our final GT4s come across the line. Number 878 VRC Competizione looking to improve, and I don't think they do improve. P12 for the VRC Competizione team. Is there going to be any more improvements? The number 41 Old Goats Porsche now starting another flying lap. The number 555 Schwitzer Motorsport team looking to improve. And does not, abandons the lap and bows into the pit lane for a practice pit stop. VRC Competizione team. Still out on track, but did not improve on that previous lap. The number 89 Bremsbackenspreitzer AMG GT4, the leader, and looks to be setting the time, or should be the car to set the benchmark lap time for GT4 drivers. Still a long way to go left on track, and maybe pushing it close in terms of making it back to the start-finish line to start another flying lap. Could see very, very late runnings for GT4, and hopefully the end of quali timer would give those drivers enough time to get another lap in. NRW Performance will have this lap, and they may have another opportunity to get another lap in. But the Bremsbackenspreitzer AMG GT4 will be the first car in GT4 to set a valid lap, as the rain is continuing to pour, and this track has developed slightly for the GT4s, but not much more than the GT3s will see. If we have similar conditions in the 2.4 hour, hopefully the amount of cars on track should displace more of that water, as we do have a little bit of water displacement here into Schwalbenschwanz. The Pro Endurance team, Porsche Cayman GT4, behind the Bremsbackenspreitzer AMG GT4 effort, may have some help of slipstream down the Dottinger Straight, as we have two cars in frame here, both setting lap times at the very end. And now flash of the lights as the Pro Endurance team side by side with the Bremsbackenspreitzer AMG GT4, side by side runnings down the Dottinger Straight. Who will give up? They are racing already as they come down the Dottinger, and the AMG GT4 does seem to have the advantage in terms of top speed. Cuts back over across in front of the Porsche Cayman GT4, and neither driver here wanting to hinder their lap, as this will take some time out. The Porsche Cayman almost losing it, going nearly 2 tires into the grass, but keeping it on track. And it looks like the AMG GT4 may have won this slight battle, but the Porsche Cayman does get a better exit onto the GP Strecke and a slipstream down the line. Who will it be ahead? It's the Pro Endurance team ahead of the Bremsbackenspreitzer. Pro Endurance currently P1 in GT4 and heading into the pit lane. They do have enough time to get that car back out on track and start another flying lap. Old Goats Aston Martin Vantage P3 in GT4. As we await more lap times for GT4 cars. The Schwitzer Motorsport effort coming down the Dottinger now. Pixel Motorsport coming into the Kleine Carousel will be on the Dottinger shortly. In the 777 NRW Performance Camaro ZL1 GT4R will be the last car to come across the line and set their first lap. Will be very, very close to see if they have another lap. That Camaro getting a little squirrely as they head through the Dottinger and eventually onto the Dottinger Straight. Old Goats Vantage now P4 as the Old Goats AMG eclipses them. And the Old Goats AMG, I believe, will be done in quali. Pro Endurance going out for another lap. Bremsbackenspreitzer going out for another lap. 6 seconds, or almost 6.5 seconds between those two. The Schwitzer Motorsport car comes across the line, does not set a valid lap, but does have another opportunity to get that lap in. Pixel Motorsport will be very, very close to the end of the time whenever they come across the line, but should have no issue getting that car slowed down. And as they come back onto the GP Strecke, what will it be for Pixel Motorsport? The 777 NRW Performance car behind as well. And not a valid lap for the Pixel Motorsport team as they are coming behind the Bremsbackenspreitzer AMG GT4 in those Gulf colors. And it's a little bit of a race down at turn 1 in the Mercedes Arena. The AMG does take the advantage coming through turn 2. And the Bremsbackenspreitzer effort does seem to be having a little bit of an issue just being around traffic in all of their laps. Into the pit lane for the AMG Motorsport GT3. I believe I saw a GT4 enter the pit lane. And as the timer will come down to 0, there is just a little bit of time left for these drivers to set their lap. But any invalidations, as Pixel Motorsport goes off the track and invalidates their lap, that will be the end of qualifying for them. Schwitzer Motorsport will come into the chicane and get ready to turn left onto the Nordschleife Strecke to hopefully set a valid lap in that Porsche Cayman GT4. Pixel Motorsport, I believe, is invalid, and they abandon the lap. The NRW Performance Camaro Z01 GT4R coming through Bielstein Curve, eventually up into the Ad Van Kink. The Old Goats Porsche also coming through the Ad Van Kink, but I don't know if they'll have enough time to get around the track before the qualifying session is over and kicks us into the race session. Currently P1, the Pro Endurance Team Porsche Cayman GT4 effort, but I don't think they will have enough time to get back around the track. 7 minutes 55 seconds, the time left to make it all the way around the track and start, or not start, but finish their final flying lap. Bremsbackenspreitzer at Hatzenbach, a little bit of an off there. Looks like it may have been some slight contact with the wall. Not sure if that invalidated their time or not. I don't believe it did. And Pro Endurance Team into the pits. They are done. The Old Goats AMG is done. It is up to the Schwitzer Motorsport team to try and displace any of the GT4s in terms of qualifying position. But it has to be a perfect run from here to the end. You do not get another chance as they come through Arenberg and eventually down the hill into Foxhole. It's got to be perfect, but you've also got to step on it. You are dealing with the session timer now. The 777 Camaro Z01 GT4R NRW Performance effort also on their lap as they are coming behind the Old Goats Porsche. And that's it. The session has ended. The timer is up. I don't know if they'll have enough time to make it around. It shows checkers, but they're still pushing. The NRW Performance team still trying to get past the Old Goats Porsche here, the number 41 car ahead. And I believe the Schwitzer Motorsport effort has abandoned the lap and has taken that car back to the pit lane. Same thing with the NRW Performance team. The Old Goats Porsche still the last car out on track. But I don't think they will have enough time to improve on that lap. And an off at Adenauer Forst, big off at Adenauer Forst, will bring it into the qualifying session. As they stand in GT3, GRL Motorsport team headed by Nico Lausch was the driver to set the top time at 8:47.229 in GT3.
So watch out for slippery curves and remember to brake earlier.
And we have rain here in the 2 hour, or the 2.4 hour that is. P1 GRL Motorsport, P2 Exclusive Esports number 787, P3 Exclusive Esports number 788, P4 Schwitzer Motorsport, P5 Hobbyist Schuld Motorsports number P6, Velocity Endurance Racing Team. P7, GHR K1 Esports. P8, Fatch GT Esports. P9, Super Swede Racing Team number 1. P10, Euro Titans Endurance. P11, Super Swede Racing Team number 2. P12, VRC Competizione. P13, United E-Racing. P14, Team Titans. P15, Orion Racing. And P16, AMG Motorsport. In GT4, P1, the Pro Endurance Team, and that Porsche came in GT4 with a 939.4. P2, the Brims Backenspreitzer Racing with a 9:45, 6 seconds off of the P1 time. The Old Goats AMG P3, Old Goats Vantage P4, P5, the Schwitzer Motorsport Porsche P6, Pixel Motorsport P7 NRW Performance, and P8, the Old Goats Porsche. Leading the team, leading the field, the GRL Motorsport Aston Martin Vantage GT3. As we will go on board with our leader, as we are now engines fired. Looking back at the rest of the field goes a long way back. As we are now ready to start the formation lap. The timer comes down to 0. It's a short formation lap. We just head to the line from here. Not much time to get those tires warmed up, and the field is off. As the GRL Motorsport team in that Aston Martin Vantage GT3 with the exclusive eSports number 787 effort just beside them. As very little time to get the brakes warmed up, very little time to get the tires warmed up. Both of the exclusive esports efforts right beside each other on track. As we head up towards the start-finish line to take the green flag in the Nordschleife 24 Hours in Hell, powered by Xbox Community League and Aztec Racing in support of the Wildlands Firefighter Foundation. The 2.4-hour qualifier ahead of the official main event next weekend. And as we come out of Tiergarten and Hohenrain onto the GP Strecke, as GRL Motorsport team sets the pace as we get ready to take the green flag here in the Nordschleife 24 Hours in Hell 2.4-hour qualifier.
Green light, give it all you can.
Green, 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 we are racing as GRL Motorsport trying to defend against the exclusive esports number 787 Porsche or Ferrari 296, and side by side into turn 1, the GRL Motorsports team does get the advantage, and the rest of the field behind trying to cycle through. There's some contact in GT4, no spins though, as some contact between the Old Goats Aston Martin and the Schwitzer Motorsport Porsche came in GT4. Does seem to be an overall clean start. GRL Motorsport does find themselves at the front of the field, holding on to their lead that they earned with that pole position. And now coming down the hill towards the Dunlop curve for the first time, we do have an off. The number 788, the P3 qualifying Ferrari 296, and off at the Yokohama S. As they try to get that car gathered and back out on track, there is some damage to the rear of that car. May have been contact. GRL Motorsport team still ahead as they come through the Schumacher S, but very, very squarely that Aston Martin, and that has opened up the door for the XCL esports team to get that Ferrari 296 closer onto the rear of that Aston Martin. The rain is pouring, and it is rain for the foreseeable future, as that XCL esports Ferrari 296 to be scored lower once they get to the next timing board. The Schwitzer Motorsport Ford Mustang GT3 will find themselves in P3. And the GHR K1 esports team looking to be in battle with the Velocity, actually not the Velocity, the Fabi Ist Schuld. I want to say that actually that may be the Euro Titans. It is the Euro Titans, but a mistake at the chicane does open up the door for the Fats GT Ferrari 296. They do have some damage on the front of that Ferrari 296 though. And the GRL Motorsport team still leading the XCL Esports number 787 Ferrari 296. And into Hatzenbach, very, very tricky here. In GT4, the Pro Endurance team holding on to their lead. The Brent Spackenspreitzer team is a couple positions behind, though, as this Pro Endurance team, Porsche Cayman GT4, does seem to have a little bit of damage on the front of that car onto the back of the GT3 field. The Schwitzer Motorsport Porsche Cayman GT4 finds himself in P2, and the Pixel Motorsport allowing a few of those laggard GT3s to go by on track as that Pixel Motorsport GT4 tries to warm up those tires. GRL Motorsport still leading the field as they head into Schwedenkreuz for the first time. Very, very tricky here in the wet and going out very close to the outside of the track, and that does allow the 296 exclusive esports team, but the Schwitzer Motorsport Ford Mustang is off at Arenberg as they head down the hill, does get that car collected, keeps it pointed straight, and the number 788 Ferrari 296 in the pit lane very early into this race as the GRL Motorsport Aston Martin GT3 brings the field into Adenauer Force for the first time. And it is a BMW gaggle here. In GT4, the Pro Endurance team, Porsche Cayman GT4, up front with a lot more damage than I originally saw. The Schwitzer Motorsport team following just behind. The Old Goats Aston Martin Vantage, some damage on the front of that car as well. And the GRL Motorsport Aston Martin still holding on to that lead, trying to build a gap to the XCL Esports Ferrari 296 behind. A overall clean start for the 2.4 hour qualifying race. This is a race almost as important as the 24 hour, as this does set the order for the 24 hour qualifying next week. A battle here between the Super Swede Racing Team Ferrari 296 and Euro Titans Endurance BMW GT3 as they head up the hill into the trees. A short straight before a braking zone and then a tight hairpin leading onto what is known as the back straight by some, which does include the kink of Kesselchen. And the GRL Motorsport Aston Martin trying their best to pull away from the XCL Esports Ferrari 296. GRL Motorsport brings us through Mutt Curve for the first time. Bravery Corner, one of the hardest corners on the entire track. And in the lead, you just need to do your best to keep that car under wraps. As we switch over to TV cam to get a better view of these cars and of these battles. The Velocity Endurance Racing team just ahead of the Fabiist Schuld BMW GT3, Euro Titans Endurance with Super Swede and GHR K1 Esports behind. A little bit of damage on the side of that Ferrari 296 of the Super Swede Racing Team #1 vehicle. And once again, some damage on the front of that Fats GT Esports Ferrari 296. Makes me wonder if they were at some way or in some way, shape, or form involved with that incident with the XCL Esports Ferrari 296. Behind them, Super Swede #2 in battle with the Team Titans BMW GT3. And we may have a fight here as they head down towards Brunchen. Super Swede #2, almost 2 tires in the grass. There is no grip to be found out there in the wet, as this BMW trying desperately to get past this Ferrari 296. as they head out of High Oct and down the hill towards Vipperman. This BMW trying desperately to get past this Ferrari. And that Ferrari does seem to be causing a little bit of a choke point, as we may have more of the field lining up behind. GRL Motorsport opening up a large gap to the Ferrari 296 behind. May have been a mistake. I believe it was a mistake. There's damage on the back of that P2 Ferrari 296. And the Schwitzer Motorsport team now scored in P2, as the Velocity Endurance team may be on a forward leading effort towards that XCL Esports sister car. As the Velocity Endurance team goes off, and they are around. Damage on that car does not seem to be too bad though, but an off, our first big off here in the wet, as they will try and rejoin the track. Believe that was through the S's. Very, very tricky here in the wet, but unfortunate for that Porsche, and more damage as they are still trying to keep that car under control. GRL Motorsport now onto the Dottinger with that Schwitzer Motorsport Ford Mustang GT3 behind the XCL Esports. Number 787 going a little bit wide at the exit of that turn before the Dottinger straight. That Velocity Endurance Racing team still having trouble with that car, and that is very likely going to be an entrance into the pit lane. An early unscheduled stop for the Velocity Endurance team as they try to keep that car on track and limp it back home. Just dropping in positions. The Euro Titans Endurance team now finally getting past the Super Swede Racing team. And Super Swede Racing team falling victim to the Team Titans and VRC Competizione teams, as these two BMWs are having a battle down in the Tiergarten, but the Team Titans number 314 does seem to be the leading car in that battle as we come across the line to finish our first, or to finish our first lap. GRL Motorsport taking us through turn one, a little bit deep into turn one for the Schwitzer Motorsport team, and that will open up some time for the GRL Motorsport to try and break away. The XCL Esports team leading car is able to hold on to P3 for now. The Euro Titans Endurance ahead of the Super Swede Ferrari 296 and the GHR K1 Esports BMW GT3. Pro Endurance GT4 in battle with the Schwitzer Motorsport GT4. Sister Porsches here battling down into turn one, as Schwitzer Motorsport trying to get on the brakes better than the Pro Endurance team, but it's a cutback from Schwitzer Motorsport for the lead in GT4. It's going to be side by side heading down to the Yokohama S. Schwitzer Motorsport has the inside and they cut across. They have the lead. Schwitzer Motorsport up into P1 in GT4. Still a battle that is not over yet as they head down the hill towards the Dunlop hairpin. The Brims Backenspreitzer AMG GT4 still in P3 here, just behind that lead battle. We have an off at the Dunlop curve. Unsure of exactly which cars are involved in that. As I believe we may have lost our camera angle. Back to Helicam for now. The GRL Motorsport team still in the lead. A little bit of a slide through Hatzenbach, though. We're at the entry to Hatzenbach. Euro Titans Endurance was scored in a battle with Super Swede, but I believe that the Euro Titans Endurance team has broken away from that Ferrari 296. The battle in GT4 as Schwitzer Motorsport is able to pull away from the Pro Endurance team pole-sitting GT4 Porsche. Velocity Endurance Racing does get their mandatory stop out of the way, and I believe it may have been a driver swap for that Porsche. They do have their one mandatory stop, but there is a stint timer, so they will have to come in. And now, playing into their strategy, have they taken enough time out of the stint timer and out of the race to not have to pit outside of the scheduled pit stops? That Velocity Endurance Racing team will be out by themselves on track for a while, as they are now going to be on a different strategy after repairing that damage. GRL Motorsport still your leader in GT3, Schwitzer Motorsport P2. That gap is closing, though, as that Ford Mustang is showing some pace, and we may have a battle for the overall lead here very shortly. As the GRL Motorsport team trying to defend against the Schwitzer Motorsport Ford Mustang GT3 that is closing that gap quickly. The Schwitzer Motorsport Ford Mustang just out of sight, but not out of earshot. As this battle, we can just barely see the spray of the Aston Martin ahead. As this battle is coming to a climax, Ford Mustang did have a little bit of a rough entry into miss-hit-miss. And deep into the hairpin for the Aston Martin, but does seem to be holding on to the gap for now. VRC Competizione now ahead of the Team Titans 314 BMW GT3. And we've got a battle here in GT3 between sister BMWs as they head through miss-hit-miss now down towards the hairpin. The Team Titans number 314 definitely closing that gap. VRC Competizione on the defense. Yes, it would be a 3-stop race. As the VRC Competizione almost goes wide, 2 tires up onto the curb. And does the Team Titans number 314 get the cutback? They do, side by side. Down the straight there is another hard braking zone, but the AMG Motorsport team has now found themselves in this battle, 3-way battle for position here in GT3. The Team Titans number 314, as we are obstructed by trees for just a second, does find themselves ahead and is trying to run away. Now the VRC Competizione team under attack from the AMG Motorsport Mercedes AMG GT3 as they come through Kesselchen, very, very close between them. And contact between, but they both keep it on track. 2 tires in the grass for the AMG Motorsport team. And that AMG definitely showing some speed down what is known as the back straight here as they come through Mutt Curve. Is this AMG going to be able to close that gap? I don't think so. The VRC Competizione team now pulling a slight lead. GHRK1 Esports team coming through the carousel now, still following these leaders as the GRL Motorsport Aston Martin able to hold off the Ford Mustang of Schwitzer Motorsport driven by Irish right now. That gap was closing down, was right around a second, now growing back up to 2 seconds, but the battle is not over. And the battle still raging on here in GT3 between VRC Competizione and AMG Motorsport. Orion Racing now finding themselves onto the back of this battle. This battling is just bunching these cars up together, and VRC Competizione now under attack from 2 cars, potentially under threat of losing 2 positions here. In GT4, Schwitzer Motorsport still your leader, Pro Endurance Team P2, Brims Backenspreitzer P3, and the NRW Performance Camaro Z01 GT4R in P4. The Old Goats Porsche in the pit lane. Unsure if that was a scheduled pit stop. They're out of the rhythm, so I think that may have been an off. the Old Goats Aston Martin Vantage also back behind. The 3 Old Goats teams scored together, but the Old Goats AMG very heavy damage on that GT4, and that will be an unscheduled pit stop for that AMG GT4 effort. Haven't forgot about them, the Velocity Endurance Racing team pit early after some damage and a solo off, as they will try to regain their composure. 2 tires on the grass, definitely something you don't want to do, especially when you are trying to push on your own. But they are on a different strategy, trying to close up the gap to the cars ahead. GRL Motorsport with that Aston Martin just barely out of earshot, or not the Aston Martin, the Mustang just out of earshot, as that V8, or actually the battle of the V8s as they head up to Tiergarten. A very tight battle between these two, and this is where pit strategy would come into play. If this battle stays like this for much longer, the undercut may be on the books, as the car behind does have the ability to catch the car ahead off guard and pull into the pit lane, and likely pull the undercut. A lot of time to be made into the pit lane here. Is that the second exclusive esports team that is not? Which Ferrari was that? It may have been, that was one of the Ferraris. I believe it may have been the Orion Racing team off the track at the Dottinger. And that may be an unscheduled pit stop for them as well. Between the GRL Motorsport and Switzer Motorsport teams, the gap is growing 2 seconds now. That AMG Motorsport did find themselves, or does stay ahead of the Orion Racing Ferrari 296, and did finally get past the VRC Competizione BMW. Team Titans, number 314, running on their own, trying to catch the Fatch Motorsport Ferrari 296. And the GHR K1 Esports team looking to be on the front foot, attacking the Super Sweet Racing team Ferrari 296 as they head up the hill towards the Schumacher S. In GT4, Switzer Motorsport still your leader. The Pro Endurance team just a couple seconds behind, still within a shout of the lead. And the Brims Backenspreitzer team running on their own. Looked like a very, very late braking into turn 1 from the NRW Performance Camaro, but did keep it out of the wall and get it back on track. Pixel Motorsport next behind in the Old Goats Aston Martin Vantage GT4, coming through Tiergarten, about to start their next lap. The gap is still within threat of an overtake for the Switzer Motorsport Ford Mustang as they come to the next timing line. Is the Switzer Motorsport Ford Mustang closing that gap? That Aston Martin is just barely within view, but I know that that Switzer Motorsport Ford Mustang is on the hunt, prancing forward, trying their best to close that gap to the GRL Motorsport Aston Martin ahead. They are absolutely pushing hard, braking into Arenberg. Do not want to go too late on the brakes like they did on the first lap. And the GRL Motorsport Aston Martin keeping calm under pressure, but no easy runnings yet. It is a very, very high pressure situation with that Mustang just barely behind. The gap has shrunk to 1.5 seconds now. The Ford Mustang taking half a second out of that gap as we see the Aston Martin very shortly in the foreground here in the helicopter cam. And the GT3 field is starting to spread out a little bit. The GHR K1 Esports team unable to get past the super sweet Ferrari 296 for now, just slotting in behind. As now the field gets spread out, the VRC Competizione team does seem to be falling back in positions. Now the next car in line to overtake would be the Super Sweet Racing Team number 2 Ferrari 296, as that VRC Competizione team just seems to be having some trouble with that car, finding and holding that pace. The rain does seem to be leveling off here in 10 minutes, but in the 30-minute forecast, the rain will increase, and we are going to be looking at a flooded track, I believe. That Super Sweet Racing Team Ferrari 296 trying desperately to gain that time and get ahead of the VRC Competizione BMW, and the Orion Racing Ferrari 296 with a lot of damage on that car. Does not seem to be affecting the handling too much, but still trying to regain those positions lost. Switzer Motorsport, it's a battle between Porsches at the front of the GT4 lead. And the GT4 seem very, very spread out. The Velocity Racing team still racing on their own, slicing through whatever GT4 traffic they come across, but just trying to run their own race as they are now on their own, and some would say the most difficult position to race in. No one around you to reference yourself off of, no reference points to push, no objective to chase. It is just hot lapping, and hot lapping. Takes extreme mental fortitude just to put these laps in with no one around you. But this is the type of mentality and the type of strategy that you have to be willing to race with if you are going to make it 24 hours, especially 24 hours in hell here at the Nürburgring Nordschleife Endurance. The Old Goats AMG brings that GT4 car into the pits to start one of their pit stops. A little bit of an issue in the pits though, not quite up to the line, not quite fully in the box. Now getting that car up and on the jacks with that engine cut off. Battle for the lead still raging on in GT3. The Schwitzer Motorsport Ford Mustang still chasing that GRL Motorsport Aston Martin, as we are not anywhere near the stint timer coming to a crucial moment of running out. That is a 65-minute stint timer, but maybe we start to get into our first cycle of pit stops, as that Ford Mustang just inching ever so much closer to the rear of that Aston Martin GT3, just barely outside of view. And the XCL Esports Ferrari 296 running P3 just on their own. Next being the Fabi Ist Schuld Motorsport BMW GT3. And then the Euro Titans Endurance BMW GT3 coming through Whipperman now, with the GHR K1 Esports BMW following shortly behind. The Fatch GT Esports Ferrari 296 followed by the Super Swede Ferrari 296, looking to be under attack from the Team Titans BMW behind. AMG Motorsport Mercedes AMG GT3 the next in line with the VRC Competizione effort. The Super Swede Ferrari 296 that was on the front foot attacking the VRC Competizione team now getting overtaken by the Orion Racing Ferrari 296 in a late braking overtake around the outside of that sister Ferrari. United E Racing now just racing on their own at the tail of the lead GT3 pack. Schwitzer Motorsport in the lead in GT4, followed by the Pro Endurance Team P2 in this qualifying race. Brimsback and Spreitzer P3, NRW Performance P4, Pixel Motorsport P5, Old Goats Aston Martin Vantage P6, looking to be overtaken by the Velocity Endurance Racing Team. Porsche, but it looks like they may have been 4 tires in the grass for a short moment in time, but did manage to keep that car on track very, very dodgy overtake there, but did get the job done as they are on the back straight coming through Muck Curve. The Old Goats AMG did come into the pits to repair their car. No driver swap there. And the XCL Esports number 788 back out on track as well. The Old Goats Porsche getting passed by the leading Porsche Cayman, the Schwitzer Motorsport GT4. And the gap at the lead in GT3 is still shrinking. 1.1 seconds now between the Ford Mustang GT3 and the GRL Motorsport Aston Martin GT3. Schwitzer Motorsport looking to have a lead in both classes here very shortly as they come through the Yokohama S heading down the hill towards the Dunlop hairpin. Is this gap shrinking? Is the pressure mounting on this GRL Motorsport Aston Martin? Looks to be a little bit deep into Dunlop. Ford Mustang a little bit more tidy, and we can see that spray just outside of view as they come up through the Schumacher S. And that gap much smaller than it was. We'll have to see what it is whenever they get to the next timing line. But this battle is on, the battle for the GT3 lead and the overall lead here in the 24 Hours in Hell qualifier. But a little bit of a bobble at the Bielstein curve from the Ford Mustang will open that gap back up and give the GRL Motorsport Aston Martin a little bit of breathing room, but not too much, as that Schwitzer Motorsport Ford Mustang does seem to be showing the pace to catch up to that Aston Martin. A very, very mentally challenging drive from both of these drivers, especially in these wet conditions. Having to push, the GRL Motorsport team does not have any buffer to relax. They have to keep pushing, pushing, pushing. The Schwitzer Motorsport team also needs to keep pushing, pushing, pushing if they want a chance at the GT3 lead. Look to be a little bit deep into Hatzenbach though, and the Ford Mustang GT3 may be having a little bit of drop off as that Aston Martin now falling outside of view. As there is a mistake with the stream. Let me get that fixed. Thank you for letting me know that, and that is now fixed. Sorry about that issue. I don't know what month it is. The Schwitzer Motorsport team still following behind the GRL Motorsport effort as they have a lot of open track ahead. XCL Esports just following behind as the gap has now grown 2.4 seconds now. The gap grew almost a second and a half in this last quarter of a lap. And then off on the GRL Motorsport team, they are into the wall, and the Schwitzer Motorsport team will cycle through. Maybe the pressure was too much for the GRL Motorsport Aston Martin GT3. A collision with the wall does give Schwitzer Motorsport the lead as they head up into the carousel. Actually, not into the carousel. I'm at the wrong part of the track. They are coming through Wipperman now. Actually, not even at Wipperman. They're at Miss Hit Miss. Sorry. I don't know where I am. That completely caught me off guard. The GRL Motorsport team with an off into the wall has relinquished the lead to the Ford Mustang GT3 of Schwitzer Motorsport, and Schwitzer Motorsport will now be leading both classes here in the 24 Hours in Hell 2.4 hour qualifier. And That GRL Motorsport team now in a tough mental position, just needs to get calm, relax, recollect yourself. You've made one mistake. The race is not over, though. Just need to recollect your thoughts and get that car back out in its top racing effort. But Schwitzer Motorsports does find themselves in the lead here in GT3. There is a battle here brewing between the VRC Competizione BMW and the Orion Racing Ferrari 296. VRC Competizione team did well in qualifying, but does seem to be falling behind in terms of pace. Just dropping down the order slowly, now under attack from the Orion Racing Ferrari 296. The Super Swede Racing team did come into the pit lane. They are now ahead of the Velocity Endurance Racing team in terms of strategy, but a big off from the Super Swede Racing team at Schwedenkreuz, pushing too hard, and they are into the wall. And that may be another unscheduled stop. Unsure of exactly how much damage is on that car. But as they had come through on a different pit strategy, just two cold tires, and they are now off the track. There may be damage on that Ferrari 296. Does seem to be handling okay so far, but no more mistakes from them as they come up the hill into Adenauer Forst. Will that open up the door for the Velocity Endurance Racing team to get a position here on track? Currently scored second to last in GT3, but they are on a different strategy. They did pit earlier. They were the first GT3 to come into the pit lane. That GRL Motorsports Aston Martin still trying to close up the gap to the Schwitzer Motorsport Mustang GT3 ahead. And the rest of the field just cycling through on their own. A battle here between the GHR K1 Esports team and the Euro Titans Endurance. Sister BMWs battling once again. There does seem to be a heavy mix of battles between the same make. VRC Competizione now overtaken by Orion Racing and now potentially under attack from Super Swede team number 2. Back on board with the Euro Titans Endurance and GHR K1 Esports battle as they come through Brunchen, aka YouTube Corner. Heading up the hill for the awkward left-hander, a little bit deep. Actually, I say that was YouTube Corner. This is Brunchen YouTube Corner. Sorry, in the Helicam it's a little bit hard to see exactly where I am on track, but no worries. Not used to being able to use Helicam here for the broadcast. And this battle has come full swing, back full circle. The GRL Motorsport Aston Martin now on the front foot, attacking the Ford Mustang GT3, and that top speed from that Ford Mustang does not seem to be enough to keep that Aston Martin out of getting an advantage in terms of the slipstream. And we have a battle heading up the hill into Tiergarten. Is that Aston Martin going to be able to get this move done before they get back onto the GP Strecke? I don't think so. Hard on the brakes from both teams, from both drivers. But this battle is fully on once again. Schwitzer Motorsport and GRL Motorsport battling for the lead here in GT3. Does GRL Motorsport have enough of a run heading down into Turn 1 for the late braking overtake into Turn 1? I don't think so. GRL Motorsport will just have to slot back behind later on the brakes though, and it's a dive bomb into Turn 1 side by side as they go through. Schwitzer Motorsport does have the advantage, will take the inside line. And now side by side as they come out of Turn 2 headed towards the Yokohama S. This is the battle for the lead in GT3. Who gives up first? No one gives up first. Side by side through the Yokohama S. GRL Motorsport will have the inside. Is it late braking overtake for the GRL Motorsports team? It is not. Still side by side as we come out of the Yokohama S heading down the hill towards the Dunlop hairpin. The Schwitzer Motorsport team now in the suboptimal position as they bang doors heading down to Dunlop. That Ford Mustang trying it around the outside, may get the cutback, does get the cutback, but the GRL Motorsport now inside as they head up the hill towards the Schumacher S. Will not be able to go side by side through here, but they try it anyway. Still banging doors, contact between them, and the GRL Motorsport team almost gets spun. The Switzer Motorsport Ford Mustang backs out of it as they come up to Ravenel Curve. The GRL Motorsport resumes the lead in GT3, but almost a spin, trying too hard to push too hard, get away. As they come out of Bielstein Curve, the GRL Motorsport Aston Martin allows the Switzer Motorsport Ford Mustang back through, coming up through the Advan kink. This battle is back where it was at the beginning of this lap. Maybe a late lunge that the GRL Motorsport team did not feel was the right move to make, and they concede the lead back to Switzer Motorsport and live to fight another day. Exclusive Motorsport came into the pit lane, and it may have been a driver swap for the number 269 Exclusive Motorsport number 787. The Pro Endurance Team GT4 P2 in the pits, maybe getting an undercut or attempting the undercut on the leading Switzer Motorsport GT4 effort. And unsure if this is a driver swap here as well. Velocity Endurance Racing did manage to get past the Super Swede team Ferrari 296. And the battle for the lead in GT3 still raging on. Switzer Motorsport now able to open up that gap slightly. And a side-by-side battle between the... When I say that's a battle, it does not seem to be a battle. I think that may just be lap traffic as the P3 Ferrari 296 XCL official team car looking to go past the VRC Competizione BMW, and will get that done as they come out of the Bielstein curve. Back up onto the GT3 lead. The battle is not over. It has swapped positions a couple times, very respectful between both drivers. I don't know how they kept it side by side for so long without making significant contact. Oh, everything is absolutely good here. You don't have to worry about me losing my voice. I will be all right from here to the end. The Fabiist Schuld Motorsport GT3 effort going around the Old Goats AMG GT4 team. And the Euro Titans Endurance team still trying to run away from the GHR K1 Esports effort. VRC Competizione now all on their own. Velocity Endurance Racing team will be very interesting to see where they shake up when the leaders come in for their pit stops. They are on that different strategy, but will be able to close up some of that time. They were very, very quick in free practice. We know they have the pace. We're unable to find it in qualifying, unable to get P1, but do have the pace, as they will try their best to gain as much time as possible when the leaders come in for their pit stops. Switzer Motorsport still in the lead with the GRL Motorsport AMG, or not AMG, AMR, Aston Martin GT3 following behind. And a gaggle of GT3s here. With the number 313 Euro Titans Endurance BMW GT3 leading this field. The GHR K1 Esports team just behind, then the Fats GT and Team Titans teams behind as well. Team Titans number 314 looking to move forward and maybe overtake the Fats GT Ferrari 296. A battle brewing here for P6 in GT3. And that BMW fully in the slipstream as they have some GT4 traffic of the old Goats AMG team. And into the braking zone for the hairpin as we head down the back straight, as it's known. The BMW fully in the slipstream. It could be a chance at an overtake somewhere down the straight here. Not much room for the overtake to be made unless you can pass on the straight, and that Ferrari 296 does seem to be running away from the BMW here. BMW actually closing up slightly as they head closer and closer to Mutt Curve, who is more brave than the other. The BMW does close that gap by quite a bit, and we may have a shot of an overtake here. But the BMW almost goes wide, 2 tires in the grass. And that gap opens up slightly as they head into the carousel. Will it be a fight through Hoa Oct, Vipperman? Fats GT getting a slow entry into the carousel. That allows the Team Titans BMW to get all over the rear of that Ferrari 296. And as they head up the hill to enter the tricky section of the track through the trees, we watch this battle coming up to Hoa Oct and eventually into Vipperman. Will this BMW be able to get this move done, or will they just have to hold station behind? Up ahead, the battle between the sister BMWs, the GHR K1 Esports team and the Euro Titan Endurance team. That battle also brewing, but this battle here between the Fats GT and Team Titans, the one to watch right now, just less than half a second, just a couple car lengths between them. And Team Titans trying to set up this overtake as they head out of Brünchen here. That BMW trying desperately, now headed towards Flansgarten. Very tricky to get an overtake anywhere from here all the way to the Kleine Carousel, but will be close enough, just needs to maintain this gap by the time they get to the Dottinger, and it could be a move for the lead, or not for the lead, but for the lead of this battle. Could be the move for P5 or P6 in GT3. That BMW all over the rear of the Ferrari 296 as they head into Schwalbenschwanz. And as long as this BMW stays close behind, should be able to get past down the Dottinger Straight into the Kleine Carousel. Both drivers getting a good exit out of the Kleine Carousel. The battle for the lead still raging as they come through turn 1. The gap now 1.6, hopping back onto this battle. Now down the Dottinger, the BMW fully in the slipstream. When will they pull to the side? It happens now side by side. The BMW trying to get a run past that Ferrari 296. Drag race down to Tiergarten. And I think the BMW has gotten past, but is it too early? I don't think so. I think that BMW, the Team Titans number 314, will have this move secured as they pull a slight gap, about 2 car lengths ahead of the Fats GT Ferrari 296. As they come into Tiergarten with that extra burst of speed, make sure that you get that car slowed down enough before we come into the GP Strecke to start another lap. Up ahead, the battle between the GHR K1 Esports team and Euro Titans Endurance team for P4. As both drivers head down into turn 1, the GHR K1 Esports team very late on the brakes, and the AMG Motorsport team, first of the leaders here to come into the pit lane. This is a scheduled stop. I think our first scheduled pit stop. Pulling into the box and getting that car shut down and on the jacks, and I believe this is going to be a driver swap for the AMG Motorsport team as well. Schwitzer Motorsport and GRL Motorsport still battling at the lead here in GT3. The Fabi-ist Schuld Motorsport team finds themselves in P3 with the Euro Titans Endurance team in P4. I believe we may have lost the second XCL Esports team with a little bit of an off. I think they may have made a mistake. They were running P3 earlier. Battle for P4 between GHR K1 Esports and Euro Titans Endurance. As they come through Ravenel Curve, now the Team Titans BMW that made it past that Fatch GT Ferrari 296. And I don't think it's a driver swap for the AMG Motorsport team, but that pit stop is good and in the books. Orion Racing also coming into the pit lane for a scheduled pit stop. And this is where we should see, actually, where are they on track? The Velocity Racing team, are they still in here with us? They may not be in the session anymore. I think we may have lost the Ferrari, or not the Ferrari, the Velocity Endurance team, Porsche 992 GT3R. I think they may have put that car back on the trailer. The gap between the leaders less than a second. As the headlights are on now, the rain has increased, and it is absolutely pouring rain. Schwitzer Motorsport still in the lead. That GRL Motorsport team still trying to get that lead back. And the Fabi-ist Schuld BMW just racing all on their own. Euro Titans Endurance trying to pull away from the battling GHR K1 Esports and Team Titans BMW GT3s. Orion Racing now coming out of the pit lane. And it is a good stop for them. No, it is not. They get a stop and go penalty for speeding in pit lane. Better to do it now in the qualifier than do it in the 24-hour. But that is going to drop them a few positions in GT3 and lose them a lot of time on track. The battle in GT3, the battle for the GT3 lead still raging on between the GRL Motorsport Aston Martin and Schwitzer Motorsport Ford Mustang GT3. But the rain has increased much, much heavier, and I believe it may have washed away any dry line that we were looking at, as the braking seems to be going deeper and the throttle coming later. The battle between GHR K1 Esports and Team Titans. GHR K1 did make it past Team Titans, or is ahead of Team Titans. I think Team Titans may be moving forward onto the rear of the GHR K1 Esports. GHR K1 Esports goes off. A light touch with the wall, but able to keep that car together and get it back out on track. But now under attack from the Fatch GT Esports Ferrari 296. And any second now we should have pit stops coming from the leaders here. And is there going to be pit stop strategy and undercut from either of the leaders here, as there would definitely be time to be made in pit lane? Does GRL Motorsport come in? If Schwitzer Motorsport comes in first, surely the GRL Motorsport Aston Martin will come in behind in reaction. And it was a driver swap for the AMG Motorsport team, I believe. The gap with the drivers ahead, less than a second. The GRL Motorsport team is gaining some time. Flash of the lights to try and throw off the leading Ford Mustang. The Old Goats Porsche now coming down the pit lane, or coming out of the pit lane now. A clean stop for them. GHR K1 Esports did make that mistake, but they are still ahead of the Fatch GT Ferrari 296. But the battle between the Euro Titans Endurance and Team Titans number 314 is raging, as they are heading up towards Mutt Curve and eventually the carousel. The Team Titans BMW looking to gain some time and into the wall. for the Euro Titans Endurance into the wall at Muck Curve, and I think this rain has definitely changed the track, changed the dynamic of the track. We have completely lost the dry line, and the track is flooded as the Euro Titans Endurance team goes off and concedes the position to the Team Titans number 314. The Schwitzer Motorsport Ford Mustang still in the lead ahead of the Aston Martin GT3 of GRL Motorsport. Looks like maybe 2 tires in the grass for the Schwitzer Motorsport Ford Mustang, but kept it on track. And as they head up into Schwalbenschwanz, the gap very, very close between them. Could be on for an overtake at the end of the Dottinger. This battle in the lead, or the battle for the lead for GT3 still raging on, has been raging the entire race as these 2 drivers have broken away from the rest of the field, and we are just awaiting pit stops. You can make or break your race right here, especially for the lead in the pit lane. And now the GRL Motorsport team fully into the slipstream. The Schwitzer Motorsport Ford Mustang trying to break that toe. Not really going to be able to do that, but that Ford Mustang does have a superior top end to the Aston Martin. Is it enough to keep away from the Aston Martin with slipstream, though? And is this going to be a replay of what we had a couple laps ago? The Mustang going defensive as they head up the hill into Tiergarten. I don't think the Aston Martin will be close enough there. And hard on the brakes before they get back onto the GP Strecke. GRL Motorsport Aston Martin right there with the Ford Mustang, and it is the undercut for the GRL Motorsport Aston Martin diving into the pit lane, leaving Schwitzer Motorsport out to dry. And now a very crucial pit stop for Nico Lausch in the GRL Motorsport Aston Martin. It needs to be aces here. Perfect on the entry, perfect on the stop. Get that car on the jacks as fast as possible and get that driver swap done. I believe there would be a driver swap here as Irish and Schwitzer Motorsport now out all on their own. Now with no reference to gauge off of and a worsening track, it is on to them to just keep that car pushing forward as we have our first scheduled pit stop from one of our race leaders. Cannot afford a mistake, cannot afford a penalty. It is only the qualifier, but if you want to have any chance in winning this race and winning this qualifier and having that pole position for the 24-hour next weekend, you need to make sure that this stop is perfect. Fabi East Schuld coming into the pit lane. And I believe the Team Titans number 314 may also be coming into the pit lane shortly. Staying out the currently P4 BMW and back out of the pit lane. Nico Lausch stayed in, I believe, for the GRL Motorsports number 99. Schwitzer Motorsport Ford Mustang GT3 still out there all on their own. And as they turn left back onto the Nordschleife, we'll have to push this lap. The GRL Motorsport Aston Martin out of the pit lane will try to warm up those wet tires and keep that car a little bit deep into Dunlop Curve as those tires are cold. But still pushing. Fatch GT also into the pit lane. GHR K1 Esports coming into the pit lane, but they do have damage on the front of that car. Have dropped a couple positions. I think there may have been an off. And that will be some time to repair that car. The AMG Motorsport, I believe it does not register as a stop if they don't decide to take tires or fuel or do the driver swap, but they have more stops to complete their mandatory stop. VRC Competizione coming into the pit lane, United E-Racing coming into the pit lane, and pit stops galore as the stint timer comes down. It was approaching the end of the stint timer. GHR K1 Esports in Super Speed Racing number 2 in, BRC Competizione team in, United E-Racing in, and I believe we may start seeing more of our GT4 teams in. Some lap traffic. The AMG, the Old Goats AMG, with more damage on the front of that car, will be coming back into the pit lane. Very, very heavy damage at the front of that Aston Martin. Seems like they've got a headlight out on that car. Schwitzer Motorsport still the leader in GT4. And they may be coming in for their scheduled stop here. The Old Goats Porsche team was out there, and I believe we may have lost the Pro Endurance. No, they are still out there. They are just behind. They did come in on that separate stop. And off the track, the Pro Endurance team somehow keeps that car together coming through the S's at Schwabenschwanz. An absolutely huge moment, and somehow keeps that car on track. A driver swap for United E-Racing, I believe. Schwitzer Motorsport coming into the pit lane. NRW Performance coming into the pit lane. And Orion Racing now coming in to serve that 30-second stop-and-go penalty. No maintenance, no driver swaps, nothing allowed to be done to that car during this 30-second stop-and-go. A driver swap for Fatch GT, a driver swap for Fabius Schuld. I believe there may have been a driver swap for GHR K1 as pit stops are now cycling through. Brimsbeck and Spreitzer coming into the pit lane, and Old Goats AMG back into the pit lane. The leading GT4 Schwitzer Motorsport coming out of the pit lane, and Schwitzer Motorsport is currently leading both classes, both GT3 and GT4, in this 2.4-hour qualifier. GRL Motorsport quite a ways behind, about a minute or over a minute behind, but with open track just need to push, push, push. The rain is absolutely sheeting across the track though. The track is flooded. What any resemblance of a dry line we had is completely gone now. The Team Titans BMW currently P3. Not too far behind the number 99 GRL Motorsport of Nico Lausch, but not having pit yet, I don't believe. Same thing with the Euro Titans Endurance team. The majority of the field has come in to serve their pit stops, though. Pixel Motorsport likely going to be coming in soon. Car number 115, the GHR K1 Esports team, another off, and big damage on that BMW, pulling off to the side at the entrance to the Nordschleife, and I believe that may be a park for GHR K1 Esports for now. Crew's going to have a lot of work to do on that car. Bringing the car back around onto the Nordschleife, and it will probably be another unscheduled stop, pulling the car to the side off the track, and it is going to be a park for GHR K1 Esports. Pixel Motorsport BMW GT4 in the pit lane. The Old Goats AMG still repairing that car. And Schwitzer Motorsport Ford Mustang GT3 yet to come into the pit lane, but will be very, very close to the end of that stint timer, as we are over an hour into this qualifier. And I believe that Schwitzer Motorsport Ford Mustang will come in this lap. And we will see how the undercut has affected the battle for the GT3 lead between the GRL Motorsport Aston Martin and the Schwitzer Motorsport Ford Mustang. The gap was right at a second to a second and a half between the two. Will the undercut be enough to allow the swap of positions. I believe it may be, but it had to have been a perfect stop from the Aston Martin, and it will need to be a perfect stop from the Mustang whenever it decides to come in. I believe it will come in on this lap. Your top 5 still yet to pit, as we have a battle here between the Euro Titans Endurance BMW and the XCL Esports Ferrari 296. And that Ferrari 296 all over the rear of that BMW, as they now head into Brinchen. That Ferrari 296 trying desperately to close that gap and get that move done. And hopping on with the GT3 leader, do we see Irish bring that Ford Mustang GT3 into the pit lane? I believe it will be in this lap. And I believe we will see that Ford Mustang pull over to the right-hand side. Cannot afford the drive-through penalty or stop-and-go penalty for speeding in pit lane. Onto the pit limiter and into the pit lane for Irish and Switzer Motorsport. Pitting from the lead, will Nico Lausch in the number 99 Aston Martin have enough to get that car onto the lead? Only time will tell. Irish still not in the box, still not on the jacks. We'll have to try desperately to get that stop as perfect as possible. Any time that is lost is time given to the number 99. And it is a late stop, not quite fully in the box, was not able to get that car shut off on time. And will be late on the jacks, and that may concede the lead in GT3 to the GRL Motorsport number 99. The undercut may have been deadly, but it's deep at Tiergarten for Nico Lausch. But I believe GRL Motorsport will resume the lead. And GRL Motorsport, as we see that Switzer Motorsport Ford Mustang just clip into view for just a second. GRL Motorsport back into the lead as Irish in the Switzer Motorsport Ford Mustang back out on track. But the undercut was deadly. The stops are not done yet, but that number 99 Aston Martin was able to get the position through the pit stop. Team Titans number 314 coming into the pit lane. Exclusive Esports number 787 staying out. Euro Titans Endurance number 313 coming into the pit lane. And stops for them. Well, both drivers still need to pit. It is a 2-stop race regardless. There will be another pit stop due to the stint timer. We cannot see the stint timer because it is different for each team, but all drivers still need to come into the pit lane. They still have about 10 minutes in excess, anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes in excess, and those stint timers will play a crucial role in every team's strategy. All teams still have one more pit stop to serve as we are rapidly approaching the halfway point of this race in about 6 minutes. Car number 115, the GHR K1 Esports car, around again on the GP Strecke. They repaired that car, got it back out on track, but the issues still seem to be finding that BMW team. Pro Endurance team back into the session. They did lose a bit of time, but they have made it back in. Euro Titans Endurance still in the pit lane. Team Titans out of the pit lane. And that Ford Mustang still scored in the lead, no longer in the lead, did lose the lead to the GRL Motorsport Aston Martin in the pit lane. Still one stop left to go, but we've seen how much time can be made with the undercut. And with conditions playing into their hand as well, Will that Mustang be able to close that gap onto the number 99 Aston Martin and be able to get that lead back? The number 787 Ferrari 296 XCL official team trying to close that gap to the leaders as well. Car number 555 Schwitzer has made an off just before at the exit of Flugplatz, and that will concede the position to the exclusive esports Ferrari 296, I believe, but it's damage on the front of that Schwitzer Motorsport Ford Mustang. Absolutely devastating accident from that Ford Mustang GT3. Was fighting for the lead. Now a lot more work to do to get back up into this lead, as they seem to be under attack from this Ferrari 296 very shortly. The Schwitzer Motorsport Porsche Cayman GT4 still in the lead in GT4, but that NRW Performance Camaro is showing to have some pace and may be able to challenge that Schwitzer Motorsports Porsche, but there does seem to be some damage on the front of that Camaro GT4. Brimsback and Spreitzer still in P3 in GT4, with Pixel Motorsport in P5. The Ferrari 296 of the second exclusive esports team car, that second Ferrari 296, making it past that lap traffic of Pixel Motorsport. But now a lot of work on the plate of the Schwitzer Motorsport. There was a driver swap. It just took a while to register a driver swap for Schwitzer Motorsport in that Ford Mustang GT3. And the field has spread out once again. GHR K1 Esports team did have a GT4 that they were passing a short second ago. That Old Goats Aston Martin Vantage GT4. And there may be a battle brewing here between the number 313 Euro Titans Endurance BMW and the Fats GT Ferrari 296. As they hard brake, I think the Ferrari 296, or it was the Euro Titans BMW, did have an off into the sand at the exit of Arenberg, kept it out of the wall, but a late break for them, and we seem to have the rain leveling off. I don't think there would be enough time for the track to go dry, but the rain will be lessening here in the next half hour. And the Fats GT Ferrari 296 closing that gap, as that Euro Titans Endurance BMW did make that mistake. Nico Lausch still in the lead in the number 99 Aston Martin GT3. The Schwitzer Motorsport Ford Mustang still P2. The exclusive esports, actually I say P2, they did lose the position to the exclusive esports Ferrari 296, who is now coming into the carousel. That XCL team now into P2 on the front row if the field was frozen from here to the finish. And through just some luck of the draw, have found themselves back in P2, racing their own race and letting it come to them. They are now in P2. The number 99 GRL Motorsport Aston Martin all on their lonesome in the lead. And now the battle for GT4 was between the Pro Endurance and Schwitzer Motorsport sister Porsche teams, but now the battle between the NRW Performance Camaro and the Schwitzer Motorsport Porsche. The GT4 effort for Schwitzer Motorsport, as they have the Ford Mustang running in GT3. Yes, the Mustang was in the wall. I did get that on the stream. And RW Performance Camaro trying desperately to close the gap to this Porsche Cayman, and I think that Camaro may have a top speed advantage as they head up the hill towards Flugplatz. That Porsche Cayman trying desperately to outrun this Camaro, but that American V8 showing that it is producing a lot of power as we officially get the halfway call from race control. And the Porsche Cayman still trying to just run away from the Camaro GT4 as they head into Arenberg. Coming out of Arenberg down into Foxhole, that Camaro will be fully in the slipstream. Very hard to make an overtake through the compression though, but the rain is lessening, which would come into the favor of that rear-wheel drive, or the heavier rear-wheel drive Camaro. The light and nimble Porsche Cayman should be a little bit, or should be faring a little bit better, especially being rear engine, able to get that power down. That Camaro with a lot of power to use could be at a slight disadvantage here in the wet. That NRW Camaro trying desperately to close that gap onto the Schwitzer Motorsport Porsche ahead. And as that Camaro is finding some pace, just needs to close that gap. The number 99 GRO Motorsport still in the lead with the XCL Esports Ferrari 296 and P2, and a few seconds behind, dropping in pace, the Ford Mustang GT3 of Schwitzer Motorsport. Fabi ist Schuld now under attack from the AMG Motorsport team. They did start, I believe, close to the back of the pack, but have found their way up towards the front. And the rest of the field in GT3 cycling through pretty much all on their lonesome. The focus shifts back over to the AMG Motorsport effort behind the Fabi ist Schuld Motorsport BMW, as that Mercedes-AMG trying desperately to hunt down that BMW as they head up the hill towards Tiergarten. Back onto the GT4 battle. That Camaro still in range of the slipstream, I believe, behind that Porsche Cayman. That Porsche is just barely out of sight, but we can see the spray of that car ahead. And as we head through Kesselchen, that slight kink marked by the red and white curb on the inside. This Camaro trying desperately to close the gap on the Porsche Cayman ahead. Car number 23, the Fast GT Ferrari 296, did have an off at Schwalbenschwanz, but was able to get that car back on track. Or actually, it may have been the Kleine Carousel. Now, as they head down into the hairpin before the carousel, that Camaro still trying to close that gap. When they get scored again at the next timing line, what will the gap be? As for a short moment, we will see that Porsche Cayman, but the Camaro gets spit out of the carousel early. That will lose time and open that gap. That gap now 1.8 seconds between the two for the lead in GT4. The battle was brewing, but will not come to fruition yet. Fabi ist Schuld in that BMW still under attack from the AMG Motorsport Mercedes as they head up into, and there's contact between somehow. Fabi ist Schuld, Ragnar keeps that car together. Contact between them as they come through the Bielstein curve. I don't know how the driver of that BMW was able to keep that car pointed straight with that contact, especially in the wet. Quick reaction from both. The AMG driver backing out, knowing that that contact was their fault, and allowing the BMW to resume their position in the lead. But this battle is raging here for P4, a spot on the second row in GT3. as they come through Sabian Schmidt's curve and head down the hill towards Hatzenbach. There is, I believe, some GT4 traffic ahead. The Old Goats Aston Martin Vantage going deep into Hatzenbach. But that traffic could pose a wrench in the works for this GT3 battle. GHR K1 Esports coming into the pit lane again. Back on with the AMG Esport and Fabiist Schuld Motorsport, or AMG Motorsport and Fabiist Schuld Motorsport battle here as they head up the hill towards Flugplatz. The Mercedes does have the advantage in speed, but will try it around the outside at Flugplatz. The Fabiist Schuld BMW backs out of it and allows the Mercedes to go ahead. And the Mercedes is now up in P4 in GT3 as that Mercedes is going past the GT4 traffic of the Old Goats Aston Martin. Nico Lausch still in the lead in GT3 in the number 99 GRL Motorsport machine. And Cozy Lerner in the number 787 Ferrari 296 of the XCL Esports team. Schwitzer Motorsport still in P3 after those mistakes, but do have a large buffer to the next cars behind in pace, about a minute to the next cars behind. That would be the number 4 of AMG Motorsport. Back with the battle between the GT4 leaders in RW Performance and that Camaro GT4, and Schwitzer Motorsport in that Porsche Cayman GT4. That Porsche Cayman is surviving for a little bit longer. The gap holding steady at 1.8 seconds. Schwitzer Motorsport showing dominant pace here in GT4. And as long as nothing changes from here on out, is in a good position to start on the front row in GT4 for the 24 Hours in Hell next weekend. That GHR K1 Motorsports BMW machine still in the pit lane as this rain is showing to be lessening and lessening as this race goes on. It has been rain from the beginning to the end, but may we see dry or damp conditions before we get to the end of this qualifier. The AMG Motorsport Mercedes and Fabiist Schuld BMW still trying to chase each other for position, as the Team Titans number 314 looking to chase down both of those drivers. 13 seconds the gap between them, but anything is possible, especially in this long of a race. El Bambino behind the wheel of that Schwitzer Motorsport Porsche Cayman GT4, still being chased by that Camaro GT4, that Camaro Z01 GT4R. And as they break to turn left to get back onto the Nordschleife Strecke. The Porsche Cayman still holding that gap to the Camaro behind. I believe we had an off from one of the GT3 cars, but I am unsure exactly which one. I think it may have been the Super Swede team number 1 Ferrari 296. Those two cars beside each other on track. Car number 788. The second of the XCL Esports teams having an off just before the Dottinger Straight, and bringing that car back into the pit lane. The GHR K1 Esports team coming out of the pit lane now. as we are now inside the stint timer to go to the end, as GHR K1 Esports should be ready for here to the end, should no longer need to come in unless they have a stop for damage. Now on a different strategy, leading in terms of strategy, they are the only car that does not need to stop anymore. The Nico Lausch number 99. The strategy is now open for drivers to come in. We are now less than 65 minutes away from the end of this race, which means that if you pit now and got your final stop out of the way, you would no longer need to pit anymore, but you would also have to bring tires and fuel for 65 minutes of racing. That's about 7 laps worth. And especially with the conditions that we are dealing with and the incidents that have been made, or the incidents that have happened, accidents that have been made, maybe you do want to allow that pit stop to be used to repair some damage so you lose less time by having to pit twice. The battle between the GT4 leaders still raging on. The battle between the NRW Performance and Schwitzer Motorsport teams. That battle just continuing forward as the Schwitzer Motorsport team still trying to run away from that NRW Performance Camaro. The last car standing in the lead. At one point, both Schwitzer Motorsport efforts were leading this 2.4 hour qualifier. But now the Schwitzer Motorsport Porsche came in under attack from the NRW Performance Camaro. That number 99 Aston Martin GT3 looked to be maybe a little bit deep into Hatzenback, but did get that car slowed down and keep it on track. And the rain still shows to be lessening as we continue on towards the end of this race. We may see the rain go away completely, but with the cloud cover, that does not mean that we would see dry track. The conditions still have an open door to change. Car number 113. That is the Super Swede Racing Team once again off the track at Schwalbenschwanz. Maybe some damage on that car. There does seem to be a little bit of damage on that car. The hood is propped up. And I think there may be a handling issue on that car. Could be a stop for the Super Swede Racing Team coming very soon. Battle between the GT4 drivers still raging on. That gap has opened up slightly, though. Or seemed to have opened up. The Camaro getting a much better run through the carousel this time. But that battle has opened up over 2 seconds. And as I said, the rain may be lessening. The rain will be increasing. It looks to be rain all the way through to the end here. That XCL Esports team now taking the fastest lap of the race. Coming up into Adenauer Forst with the number 555, the 555 Schwitzer Motorsport Ford Mustang GT3 in P3. On the second row in GT3, the AMG Motorsport team will start in the second row in GT3 as well if this is their finishing position. Anything can happen. The race is not over yet. That Fabi ist Schuld Motorsport BMW still following behind the AMG Motorsport AMG. And the Super Swede Racing Team does come into the pit lane to get that stop out of the way, and I believe that should be their final stop for this race. Old Goats Porsche also in the pit lane, and the Pro Endurance team Porsche Cayman GT4. Also out on track. I believe they did have a disconnection and a late rejoin with us, but they are back out on track to try and do their best to improve or just get practice racing in these conditions. Pixel Motorsport currently P4 in GT4. Brims Beck and Spreitzer Racing P3 in GT4. NRW Performance still P2 in GT4, and Schwitzer Motorsport still holding on to P1 in GT4. That Super Swede Racing team will be the second car in GT3s to no longer have to pit. Don't remember exactly which other GT3 came in. I think it was the GHR K1 Esports team that no longer needs to pit. And the pit strategy is open for any driver if they decide that they want to come back into the pit lane and get their final stop out of the way. It will be no stops from here on out, at least stops that would be scheduled. Any damage that could be done to the car would also need to be fixed. So that could open up that door. The strategy is open for interpretation to any of the teams. I'm sure they are discussing the strategy or have their strategy plan already made. We will just have to see what the strategy ends up looking like for the number 99 team, the number 787 team, and the 555 team. Those three teams relatively close on track compared to the rest of the field. They are all within 30 seconds of each other. And that is a small part of the track when these laps are anywhere in the high 8 minutes. And the NRW Performance Camaro comes into the pit lane, I believe, to try and get the undercut on the Schwitzer Motorsport Porsche Cayman GT4. We'll see if that undercut comes in, and the Schwitzer Motorsport Cayman GT4 goes off the track. That will surely play into the NRW Performance Camaro's hand. Schwitzer Motorsport with damage on that Porsche Cayman and will now have to bring that car around a full lap before they are able to get back into the pit lane. Hopefully not too much damage on that car, but the race has completely unraveled for the Schwitzer Motorsport Cayman GT4 now. Damage on that car. The race is not over, and they are still in position for a good spot, but an extremely dominant force early in this race will now, I believe, be undercut by the NRW Performance Camaro GT4. Any advantage that the Schwitzer Motorsport team would have had by staying out has completely been erased by that spin at the Dunlop curve. Now just time to recollect and get that car back out on track and push as hard as you can. The dry line has come back slightly, at least on the GP Strecke, but damage on the front of that Schwitzer Motorsports Porsche Cayman GT4, as they will probably be pitting next lap with that Porsche Cayman. The pit lane is closed for access from the GP circuit like you would usually see in Nürburgring GP races such as Formula One or any GT World Challenge races that would be held at the Nürburgring GP. The only entry into the pit lane is that entry on the pit straight as you come out of Tiergarten. And that GHR K1 Esports team back into the pit lane. Maybe a practice driver swap, maybe some strategy call, maybe a mishap with the strategy, but the GHR K1 Esports team back into the pit lane. Nico Lausch staying out, not coming into the pits yet. Neither is the XCL official team. The number 787 effort, driven by Cozy Lerner right now. And Ritzenflitze in the Schwitzer Motorsport Ford Mustang GT3. The door has opened for the undercut for them. Potentially neither driver ahead are in a position to have a reactionary pit. And it could be a pit at any moment for any of the leaders. Team Titans number 314 slow out of that turn there. It looked like it may have been an incident, but could have just been a little bit of a graphical illusion. And with that Schwitzer Motorsport still having issues in GT4, Bremsbackenspreitzer is now in the lead in GT4 on a different strategy that NRW Performance Camaro would likely take that lead back whenever the GT4s, the Bremsbackenspreitzer and Schwitzer Motorsport machines come back into the pit lane. But the race has completely unraveled for the Schwitzer Motorsport Porsche Cayman GT4 parked on the track at Schwedenkreuz. Actually, I believe that was at Adenauer Forst. And they have brought that car into the pit lane. AMG Motorsport coming in for their final stop, looking for the undercut on the leaders ahead. Maybe a strategy that will gain them a lot of time, but mistakes befalling all teams regardless of skill, regardless of where they are on track. Multiple incidents out of the lead of the race as both Schwitzer Motorsport efforts now out of contention for pole position in their respective classes. At least for now, the Schwitzer Motorsport GT3 not fully out of contention, but it is a lot on their plate if they want to try and get that pole position. The AMG Motorsport effort P4 and GT3 currently, and a large buffer to the cars behind. I believe there may have been a driver swap there with that GT4. Slow out of the box though. Maybe issues getting that car fired up, or maybe a stall. I think it may have been a stall. Losing time in pit lane. They will now be scored behind a couple cars ahead that have already taken their pit stops. That Schwitzer Motorsports Porsche Cayman GT4 coming into the pits out of the lead on an unscheduled pit stop. I don't believe that will reset their stint timer. They will have to repair that damage and then come back out and then go back in for their final stop. The NRW Performance Camaro should resume the lead here once the Bremsbackenspreitzer Mercedes AMG GT4 comes into the pit lane. The Old Goats Aston Martin Vantage finds himself in P5 in GT4, but will be P4 once they get past the, or if they get past the Porsche Cayman GT4 of Schwitzer Motorsport. Super Swede number 2 coming into the pit lane now. And a stop from Super Swede number 2 as the rain seems to be lessening a little bit. Definitely not as hard as it was earlier, but the rain will pick back up as the session goes on, as we will have that very hard rain, that downpour coming later on into the session. Pixel Motorsport, I believe, will find themselves in P3 in GT4, as Schwitzer Motorsport will be scored down the order. The Old Goats Vantage GT4 and the Old Goats AMG, the old goats AMG, with more damage on the front of that car, will have to come back into the pit lane at some point and repair that. And the old goats Porsche back out on track as well. As we've had an off in GT3. So I don't believe that the number on that car is 100% correct. I'm trying to figure out which car that was. It was a GHR K1 Esports car with another off. I don't know how much damage is on that car, but I believe there is some damage on that car. Yellow flags for them. GRL Motorsports still in the lead in GT3. Coming through down into Brunchen with the XCL Esports Ferrari 296 only 13 seconds behind, and the Schwitzer Motorsport Ford Mustang GT3 not entirely out of that battle as well. But I believe the GRL Motorsport number 99, while they are both drivers one mistake away from each other, they are both one mistake away from each other. They are, or the GT4, or not GT4, sorry. The GRL Motorsport Aston Martin GT3 ahead of the exclusive esports Ferrari 296 is within undercutting range, I believe. We did see that Schwitzer Motorsport, or actually I believe it was the GRL Motorsport Aston Martin undercut the Schwitzer Motorsport the Schwitzer Motorsport Ford Mustang GT3. Now, will we see an undercut from the exclusive esports official team here? A little bit of a bobble through the Kleine carousel, though, touching the inside curb, as the Aston Martin GT3 ahead, coming down the Dottinger. When they hit that timing board, what will the gap be scored at? I think that Ferrari 296 may have lost a little bit of time to the leading GT3, and that Schwitzer Motorsport Ford Mustang about a minute behind these leading GT3s. And we may have a battle here between Team Titans and Fabi Ist Schuld Motorsport once again. A battle for P4 on a position on the second row in GT4. Two sister BMWs fighting each other here. As the Fabi Ist Schuld purple and black BMW trying to run away from the blue and white Team Titans number 314 BMW GT3. Exclusive Esports does come in for the undercut. They hang the Aston Martin of GRL Motorsport out to dry, and will Exclusive Esports, as long as this stop is perfect, will it be enough for the undercut for the lead on that GRL Motorsport leading GT3? Does Schwitzer Motorsport come in behind as a reaction to Exclusive Esports pitting? And Fabi Ist Schuld has made a mistake as Team Titans goes up into P4. I believe it may have been a mistake of their own, but there could have been contact there. I'm not 100% sure, but Fabi Ist Schuld down to P5 with damage, and that will likely bring that car into the pit lane. VRC Competizione now also under attack from Fatch GT, as those cars have about a second between them. Through the trees watching this battle as that almost Grello liveried VRC Competizione BMW trying desperately to run away from the Fatch GT Ferrari 296. This battle coming to fruition shortly, if that Ferrari 296 can keep up the pace. The rain has all but stopped right now. It just seems to be a slight drizzle, but the rain will increase as we head into the finish of this race. The rain will increase into heavy rain, and then eventually the downpour. We will see that flooded track again before the end of the race. And that flooded track, that dynamic track condition, has definitely caused some issues for some drivers as this track develops. Currently, the track is about as fast as it would get as we are on board with the XCL Esports team, as they are on their outlap out of the pit lane, scored P2 currently, but are in P3 as they have been passed by the 555 of the Schwitzer Motorsport Ford Mustang GT3 and the Fabi Schuld Motorsport BMW scored behind the Team Titans number 314 BMW GT3, which is looking to lap the GHRK1 Esports BMW GT3 up ahead. The AMG Motorsport effort is on a different strategy. They no longer have any pit stops to make. Same with the exclusive esports team Ferrari 296. And I believe when the cars ahead take their pit stops, the AMG Motorsport team should see some positions gained through the pit of the drivers ahead. The Team Titans number 314 did find their way past the GHRK1 Esports team BMW. A lot of BMWs out here on track, especially a lot of BMWs here together. And the NRW Performance Camaro should find their way to P1 in GT4 once that Bremsbacken comes into the pit lane to serve their final pit stop. Pixel Motorsport still with another stop yet to make. Old Goats Aston Martin Vantage, I believe, still has another stop to make as they are being passed by the number, I believe, 31. That was a BMW GT3. That is the United E-Racing BMW GT3. Number 91, sorry, not number 31, number 91. And as the timing boards update, Cozy Lerner still in that Ferrari 296. That number 555 Schwitzer Motorsport Ford Mustang still has the pit. Will give that position back to the XCL Esports team. And car number 99 ahead likely will pit soon. Does not have to pit soon, but likely will pit soon to reduce the time lost with the undercut. That Ferrari 296 from the XCL Esports team is on fresher wet tires and is on about as fast as the track will be. Maybe the number 99 Aston Martin knows that, and they are using this fast track to stay out while these tires are putting in as much effort as possible. And we have leaders crossing over the NRW Performance, which will be scored as the leader in GT4 once the Bremsbacken Racing GT4 comes in. Getting passed by the GRL Motorsport number 99. The leaders have crossed paths. It took quite a while, and that is information to be known as the Orion Racing Ferrari 296 comes into the pit lane for their final pit stop, as they will get their final stop out of the way. The number 99 Aston Martin likely to come in soon, as we have, I believe, kicked off the round of our final pit stops. Fazzy Binks now in the XCL Esports number 787 Ferrari 296. And the Team Titans BMW, still with one stop left to make, find themselves in P4 after that incident with the Fabi Schuld BMW. Orion Racing needing a perfect stop here, and I believe it is a good stop so far. big question right now. Does the GRL Motorsport number 99 leading Aston Martin GT3 stay out on track while these conditions are as good as possible? And do they come in whenever the rain should be at its worst for the end of the race? The Pixel Motorsport BMW still with a stop left to make. I believe the old Goats Vantage still has one stop left to make, so I don't think that they are going to be in contention for a spot there. JHR K1 Esports with another off. They recollect that car. But between the Pixel Motorsport and Old Goats Vantage, I think they both still have one stop left to make, and I don't think that that is going to be a class position swap anytime soon. But anything can happen, time will tell, as the Old Goats Vantage being passed by one of the exclusive esports teams, the number 51 car. And hopping on with the leader. Does the leader come in here or do they stay out? Getting closer and closer to these pit stops. And the rain is starting to increase now, and it looks to increase all the way to the very end of this race, but the track is as dry as it will be. Do you stay out and use this dry track to your advantage, or do you come in at your scheduled time? And they stay out for now. Schwitzer Motorsport also on the bubble in terms of pit stops. When do they come in? The exclusive esports team on fresher tires and using this better track to their advantage with those fresher tires will have the optimum or the maximum advantage from this premium track, the best track that we will have in this race, as the rain is as light as it will be from here to the end. Team Titans BMW still in P4. And the GHR K1 Esports team back into the pit lane. HSR Storm is the driver in the NRW Performance Camaro. Pixel Motorsport BMW GT4 still out on track, and the Brims Backenspreitzer AMG GT4 still out on track as well. That Brims Backenspreitzer GT4 trying to run away from that 777 Camaro Z01 GT4R. Because as soon as that Brims Backenspreitzer Mercedes comes into the pit lane, I believe the NRW Performance GT4 will be scored as the leader in GT4. Nico Lauch still out. Switcher Motorsport not coming into the pit lane. And the exclusive esports team was about 20 seconds behind that Switzer Motorsport Mustang. What is that gap now? 22 seconds. The gap is gaining. That Ford Mustang definitely having some pace, especially with this better track, the better track conditions so far. And as we await our final round of pit stops to bring the field together, a little bit of a bobble through the Kleine carousel from the Euro Titans BMW, driven by ETE Giles. And another car to watch, the number 157, or actually the number 4 AMG Motorsport Mercedes, does not have any more stops to fulfill. They are done in terms of pit stops, and they will go from here to the end, as it looks to be an absolute downpour by the time we come across the finish line. Heavy, heavy rain in 10 minutes, and that rain will be increasing throughout the duration of the race. And fully in the wet, the AMG Motorsport Mercedes, I think, trying to get some temperature back in those tires, cool them off a little bit, as those wets will be getting warm with the track being as dry as it is now. But likely will undercut the cars ahead. The Fabi Ischuld BMW in the pit lane. The Euro Titans Endurance BMW staying out. And the Pixel Motorsport GT4 BMW coming into the pit lane as well. Looks to be a good stop for them. And as that AMG Motorsport comes across the start-finish line, will take a position ahead of the Fabi Ischuld BMW and will be scored ahead. The undercut has worked for one position so far. How many more will it be good for? AMG Motorsport will be up to P6 in GT3. On to the third row. Number 99, Nico Lausch, still out in that car. I believe has driven the entire race and will likely be a driver swap for the final stint. Less than 30 minutes left to go, and unsure of exactly how much time is left on their stint timer. VRC Competizione comes in, Fast GT comes in. More pit stops here in GT3 as these two cars come in. Fast GT probably coming in as soon as they saw VRT Competizione come in. The undercut being very, very strong around here, as we have seen very many overtakes being done through the pit lane. The United E-Racing BMW also coming into the pit lane. Nico Lausch still out all on their own. Schwitzer Motorsport still out. And the exclusive esports official team now closing up that gap. The gap was 22 seconds when we checked earlier. Now less than 20 seconds, about 3 seconds gained there. And the exclusive esports number 788, the sister car to the car we were just on board with, now coming into the pit lane for their final stop. The pit strategy is showing to be very strong here. And this, while it is the qualifying race, as I believe United E-Racing getting the undercut on the Fatch GT team. United E-Racing moves up one spot. May have just been a better stop, maybe no taking tires. See how that battle plays out. But out of the pit lane is swap of positions. And Fatch GT now chasing the United E-Racing BMW. And I believe the VRC Competizione team may have had a disconnect. They are trying to get back into the pit lane, but that will drop them down a couple positions. They were ahead of the Fatch GT team. They are back into the session, but not back out on track yet. The AMG Motorsport Mercedes should be scored P6 here very soon, as the Fabi Ischuld Motorsport BMW is behind. Nico Lausch still out, Schwitzer Motorsport still out, and Fazzy Binks and the exclusive esports Ferrari 296, no more stops to make, and it should be a pass in the pits for, or a pass from the pits for the exclusive esports Ferrari 296 once that Schwitzer Motorsport Mustang comes in, and I believe it will be a P2 for the 296 as long as they can bring it home in one piece. GHR K1 Esports with more issues on track, coming into the wall again. A very, very hard-fought race for them. Old Goats Aston Martin Vantage coming out of the pit lane. Currently P4 in GT4, as the Pixel Motorsport BMW did get their pit before them. The Brims Backenspreitzer car still not coming in. Still ahead of the NRW Performance Camaro, but not outside of overtaking range whenever they decide to come into the pit lane. The VRC Competizione car back out on track. After that disconnection, they have made it back into the session. And the Schwitzer Motorsport Ford Mustang GT3 still P2 here in the 2.4-hour qualifier. Being chased down by the exclusive esports Ferrari 296. That number 787 car, that purple, green, and black livery. The official XCL colors on that car. As that gap to the car head is dropping whenever that Schwitzer Motorsport Mustang decides to come in, they will concede the position to the Ferrari 296 we are on board with now. The AMG Motorsport now scored P6, but the Team Titans and Euro Titans BMWs both still need to come into the pit lane, both with one more stop to serve the sister cars. Fatch GT finding themselves behind. Actually, no, they have made it back. They got that position back. They have made that position up. They are back ahead of the United E-Racing team. Maybe a mistake from that BMW. The Super Swede Racing number 2 down behind them. And that could be a three-way battle for position very shortly. The VRC Competizione team still in the pit lane trying to get that car sorted out. And the Bremsbackenspreitzer Mercedes GT4 in the pit lane now. The NRW Performance Camaro GT4 coming across the start-finish line will assume the lead in GT4. The Bremsbackenspreitzer GT4 unable to get their car out on or into the pit lane and out of the pit lane fast enough to hold on to that lead. The NRW Performance car will take the lead in GT4. Pixel Motorsport not close enough to take P2, so Bremsbackenspreitzer will still be comfortable for P2, but I believe it may... No, it was not a disconnect for the Bremsbackenspreitzer racing team. And Nico Lausch still with one more stop to make, I believe. Schwitzer Motorsport still with one more stop, and Exclusive Esports no more stops to make. Team Titans still one more stop. Euro Titans Endurance still one more stop. AMG Endurance no more stops to make. Another off for the GHR K1 Esports team around on track at the back straight. GT4 P1 scored currently, but will not be P1 for much longer. The number 777 Camaro GT4 is your leader in GT4. Pixel Motorsport P3 currently at the carousel. And Schwitzer Motorsport has found themselves back in P4 in GT4. Nico Lausch has brought that car in, has made their final stop, and they are done with their pit stops. The number 555 car just a little bit behind, but also still with one more stop left to make. And that number 99 Aston Martin able to come into the pit lane and come out of the pit lane, staying in the lead. And they will be likely the winner here in the 2.4-hour qualifier. Nothing is over yet. Still 24 minutes left in this race. Schwitzer Motorsport as they turn left onto the Nordschleife. Still P2, but that gap is dropping with the Ferrari 296 behind. That Schwitzer Motorsport Ford Mustang still with a stop left to make. The Euro Titans Endurance team coming into the pit lane now. The Team Titans BMW staying out, and likely an undercut for the Euro Titans on their sister car, the Team Titans. And another spot to be made. Potentially another spot to be made. The AMG Motorsport team has lost one of the spots that they took in the undercut from the Fabi Ischuld Motorsport BMW, but a battle for position here now as they will both gain one position, and contact between them. The Fabius Schuld BMW goes off, and the AMG Motorsport Mercedes. Contact in the braking zone between those two drivers. Drama in GT3, as both of those drivers are now scored ahead of the Euro Titans Endurance team. The Team Titans Endurance team, as the rain has definitely increased. It shows no more rain in 30 minutes, but too little too late. We will have rain from beginning to end, from green flag to checkered flag. As I just didn't see it. I thought the NRW Performance team may have had a disconnect, but they have not. And a driver swap with Alex MG in the number 99 GRL Motorsport GT3 that is leading GT3. And a battle here brewing between the Super Swede number 2 and the United E-Racing teams. AMG Motorsport and Fabius Schuld. Would be interested to see if AMG Motorsport gives that position back to Fabius Schuld. Euro Titans Endurance back out on track after their final stop, and Team Titans number 314 will be coming in on this next lap more than likely. The AMG Motorsport Mercedes still ahead of the Fabius Schuld BMW. The Super Swede number 2 chasing down the United E-Racing BMW as we get closer and closer to the close of this race. United E-Racing trying to fend off the Super Swede blue and yellow Ferrari 296. And some GT4 traffic here together. The Old Goats AMG and the Pixel Motorsport BMW GT4. The Pixel Motorsport GT4 going off as that track is getting flooded. Once again, there is some damage on the front of that car, maybe some contact with traffic. But the downpour is back, and this is where we saw mistakes made before. The number 555 in a bad position, still with one stop left to make. A lot of damage left on that car, a lot of damage on that car. Got to get it started back up and into the pits for that Mustang, as the XCL official team will find themselves in P2, and the downpour causing mistakes. Probably not the last one that we will see, as that Schwitzer Motorsport team returns to the garage. GRL Motorsport number 99, driven by Alex. A little bit of bobble coming out of the carousel, and this rain is getting tricky. A very, very tricky end to the race. We may see the rain go away by the end of the race, but it is only going to rain harder and harder for the foreseeable future. The exclusive esports Ferrari 296 trying to gain on the GRL Motorsport number 99. That gap has fallen quite a bit. The undercut helping that Ferrari 296. The Team Titans BMW, I believe, still needing to come into the pit lane. The AMG Motorsport Mercedes with an issue at Schwedenkreuz. Actually, not Schwedenkreuz, but an issue nonetheless. I believe that may have been Metzgesfeld. As they come through, miss, hit, miss. Now an issue for the Fabius Schuld Motorsport BMW. The rain is proving to be an absolute a behemoth to deal with. Euro Titans Endurance off. Fabius Schuld off. The AMG Mercedes was off. GRL Motorsport number 99 seems to be holding on for now. Exclusive esports number 296, or number 787 Ferrari 296 still holding on. But this rain, this absolute downpour, is proving to be trouble to deal with. as it is raining out there on track. All sorts of issues with control as we have another yellow flag. Car number 315, the Euro Titans, or 313, the Euro Titans Endurance going deep at Arenberg. Car number 213, the Super Swede number 2, had an off at Flugplatz, but does seem to have that car back under control. But this rain, this absolute downpour, you can barely see the cars through that thick curtain of rain, is proving to be a mountain to climb for sure. As if this race wasn't hard enough, the track is absolutely flooded as these drivers are struggling for whatever ounces of grip they can muster. The Team Titans number 314 scored P3, but still with another pit stop left to make, I believe. The AMG Motorsport Mercedes in P5, the Fabius Schuld Motorsport in P4. Actually, the AMG Motorsport is in P5 after the Schwitzer Motorsport is scored down the order after they came into the pit lane. Fabius Schuld in P4. Euro Titans Endurance in P7 will be scored P6. The Fatch GT Esports team with a little bit of an off, just trying to keep that car together, but this flooded track is proving to be a monster to deal with, as that Fatch GT team will have to allow the teams to go past, and United E-Racing team gains a position there. And I don't think the Super Swede team number 2 will be close enough to gain another position, but flooded track causing issues for a lot of drivers out here. The leading 2 GT3 drivers seem to be in control of their machines in spite of the conditions. Pixel Motorsport back into the pit lane. GHR K1 Esports with some issues in the pit lane as well. Old Goats just bringing their Porsche home. The number 788 XCL Esports team trying to keep that car pointed straight but losing it. The Old Goats AMG trying to bring that car home. The Old Goats Vantage also trying to bring that car home, just limping around the track at this point. The track is absolutely flooded. A monstrous downpour causing a lot of issues for all teams involved. The Brins back and Sprites are racing back into the pit lane. I believe they do have enough of a buffer to get that stop in. And I think the GHR K1 Esports team may be stuck in the pit lane, unable to get out. Unsure exactly what is wrong with that car, but seem to be having some issues getting that car. Maybe they're trying to get it back into the box. As the Team Titans number 314 comes into the pit lane, will the Fabius Schuld BMW be able to get the undercut on that position? Will they gain a position there? As drama all over the track, the Euro Titans Endurance nearly losing the car somehow keeps it together. The rear tried its best to go around, but they kept it under wraps. The Schwitzer Motorsport Mustang back out on track after losing a few positions. But these are absolutely treacherous conditions to contend with, as all of the drivers out on track now are just limping their machines around, trying their best to keep them on track. There is no grip to be found out there, and this has turned into absolute chaos. They have gone from driving GT cars to driving boats as they are trying to swim their way around the track. Incidents left and right. The rain will be cooling off. Car number 115 has received a disqualification. Car number 548, Orion Racing, with a yellow flag, but they keep that car back out on track. GRL Motorsport number 99, a little bit of a bobble coming out of Arenberg down into Foxhole, but able to keep that car under control. These leaders trying desperately to hold on to their lead with their machines in this absolutely treacherous track. Team Titans number 314 do find themselves in P3. The Fabi Ist Schuld BMW unable to close the gap enough to take that position back. Everyone just trying to bring their machine home in one piece, as this flooded track is proving to be very, very difficult. We will have this lap and one more once the GRL Motorsport number 99 comes back to the start-finish line. It'll be white flag next lap. The rain is continuing for now. I don't know if the conditions will improve by the time we get to the end of this race. But this qualifier is showing to be a true test of teams for the 24-hour next weekend, as if we see these conditions now, they will likely be rearing their ugly head in the 24-hour next weekend. Extremely heavy downpour here in the 2.4-hour qualifier. These drivers fishing for whatever grip they can find, as there may be a battle here brewing between the Fatch GT and Super Swede team number 2 Ferraris. Just a few seconds between them. The NRW Performance Camaro GT4 still in the lead. The Brims-Backenspreitzer Mercedes AMG GT4 in P2, and the Schwitzer Motorsport Porsche Cayman GT4s found themselves in P3. I believe we may have lost. Actually, we did not lose the Pixel Motorsport BMW GT4. They may have just had an off, and Schwitzer Motorsport at least finds themselves back up onto the second row in GT4. At one point, your leader in GT3, just their race has fallen apart, which is just part of endurance racing. Luckily, this is just the qualifier. They have shown that they have the pace, but the conditions and just some incidents on track have brought misfortune to that Schwitzer Motorsport effort. Absolutely outrageous conditions to be driving in right now. If this was a real race here at the Nordschleife, this would be red flagged long ago with this absolutely flooded track. But any driver that is able to bring the car home in these conditions deserves a commendation, an absolute round of applause for being able to wrestle these machines through conditions that they are absolutely not built for. We have wet tires, but we don't have flood tires, as the rain seems to be lessening slightly. But these drivers are still trying to limp their machines home. The Fatch GT team losing some time to the Super Swede number 2 Ferrari 296 behind. That Super Swede Ferrari, they seem to be very comfortable in these wet conditions. And that Fatch GT 296 losing some time currently. United E Racing following that duo all on their own. Orion Racing also racing on their own. Super Swede number 1 will finish behind the sister car, as we should now be on the final lap of the race. Car number 4, or what I believe is, or should be car number 4. That is the AMG Motorsport team, Mercedes AMG GT3, with a little bit of an off, but they did get that car back out on track. Just a yellow flag out there for a second. But there is not anywhere near enough water being displaced, as GRL Motorsport will bring us to the white flag once they cross the start-finish line for the final lap of the race. The exclusive esports Ferrari 296 in a comfortable position for P2 as long as they can bring this car home in one piece. The Team Titans BMW found themselves in P3, and a long way to go for the next BMW in P4. The Fabi Shield Motorsport BMW, a monstrous effort, an absolutely momentous save from the Fabi Shield driver of LGX Chris. Well, that car wanted to go around rear or tail overhead, and I believe they just got on the clutch and allowed that car to let the rear tires bring themselves back around. A monster save from the Fabi Shield BMW, keeping that car out of the wall. But any more mistakes like that could be made could open up the door for the AMG Motorsport team to get up onto the second row in qualifying. Just 10 seconds between them. That is one mistake, one off. And Fabi Shield could be in the clutches of AMG Motorsport. GRL Motorsport number 99, driven by Alex MG, will start the final lap of the race. White flag, 1 to go here in the XCL and ATR 24 Hours in Hell 2.4 hour qualifying race ahead of the 24-hour race next weekend. The Old Goats AMG had a slight off at the left to get onto the Nordschleife. NRW Performance in that Camaro with some more damage on the front of that car, but currently still in P1 in GT4. The next car behind the Brims-Backenspreitzer Mercedes AMG GT4, as the rain seems to be lessening a little bit, or will lessen a little bit by the time we get to the close of this race. Schwitzer Motorsports finds himself back in P3, and Old Goats Vantage finds himself in P4. They did manage to get ahead of the number 315 Pixel Motorsport BMW GT4. And that AMG Motorsport now lost some time to the number 406 Fabi Shield Motorsport BMW up ahead. The Euro Titans Endurance number 313, a lot of damage on that car. We'll just have to limp that car home. Very, very heavy damage on that car, and I believe that is going to be a hard car to limp home. May be losing some positions here, currently on the third row in qualifying, but that car looks undrivable, and that will invite the Fats GT and Super Swede Racing Ferraris to take that position back. That Euro Titans number 313 will just have to limp that car home. And for the final time, GRL Motorsport number 99 leads the field through Sabine Schmidt's curve and into Hatzenbach to bring home the checkered flag for GRL Motorsport, as long as they can bring this car home in one piece. Just in time, it looks to be no rain as soon as the checkered flag falls. But it is too little too late. We have had rain from beginning to end, but if there is any conditioning for the conditions that you will see in this race next week, this would be the absolute ringer. This is what you would want to be racing in. This has put you through the worst. If you can survive the worst, you should be okay to survive 24 hours in hell next weekend. NRW Performance still in the lead in GT4 in that Camaro Z01 GT4R. The next car behind at the very beginning of the GP lap, the Brims-Backenspreitzer Mercedes GT4, going deep at turn 1, getting that car back on track for turn number 2. GRL Motorsport, just a little bit left to go. Track is still currently flooded, but they have some room to relax. The next car behind, quite a ways behind, the Schwitzer Motorsport Porsche Cayman GT4 from P3. Another big incident and back into the pit lane for them. The NRW Performance Camaro still in the lead. Brims back and Sprites are still in P2. Too late to be dealing with this, and the Old Goats may find themselves in P3 if they manage to get ahead of the Switzer Motorsport Porsche Cayman GT4 in terms of scoring. Everyone just limping around the track trying to bring the cars home, but I don't think the exclusive esports team is just trying to limp that car home. They are pushing, trying for pole position. It's quite a lot on the plate to do so, but if the number 99 makes a mistake, it is not out of sight. Team Titans number 314, I believe, took that car back into the pit lane and was able to get that repaired. Actually, no, it was the sister car, the number 313, that has the damage that they, I believe, need to get back into the pits. The sister XCL car with a little bit of an off, but keeping that car, not keeping that car, barely keeping it on the track, bouncing off the wall, somehow keeping that machine straight. Very, very, very tricky conditions here at the end of this race. And the Euro Titans number 313 into the pit lane. Will they lose positions, though? The number 23 Fats GT and number 213 Super Swede Ferraris will be next in line, and I believe they may get bumped up a position. But the battle for what will be P6 in GT3 is not over, as the Fats GT and Super Swede Ferraris, just 5 seconds between them. They will get past the number 313 BMW in the pit lane. The GRL Motorsport number 99 with the 787 Ferrari about 50 seconds behind. The Pixel Motorsport BMW also back into the pit lane. Will the Old Goats GT4 be able to get back ahead of the Schwitzer Motorsport and onto the podium for this race? They are currently in the second row in GT4. Euro Titans repairing that BMW to bring it home. And as the timer comes down to 0, your leader is at the carousel. And the only thing ahead of them, the only thing on their mind is that checkered flag and that pole position for the GRL Motorsport Aston Martin GT3 being piloted by Alex MG right now. Fazzy Binks P2 in that Ferrari 296 in the XCL esports team. Ferrari. Car number 40. The Old Goats AMG with an off. And car number 113, the Super Swede Ferrari, very, very slow. The Super Swede number 1 car, very, very slow all the way down the Dottinger. I believe they may have an issue in that car just trying to keep it straight. May have been a big off for them. The number 548 Orion Racing also doesn't seem to be going at full speed either. Definitely some damage on that car. Just trying to bring it home. And I think the Orion Racing Ferrari may be our first finisher here. See if they are scored finished at the end of the race. Pulling into the pit lane, though. They could be out of fuel, but if you are out of fuel, you may just be short shifting trying to run it. If you are out of fuel, you would think that you are that you're screwed regardless, whether you go fast or slow. But maybe they are trying to limp that car home for the finish. Gap has fallen between the two leaders in GT4 or GT3. The Schwitzer Motorsport car back out on track, but the Old Goats do eclipse the Schwitzer Motorsport team in terms of position. They are on the podium in GT4. Orion Racing in the pits. And just a couple more turns left to go. The GRL Motorsport number 99 looks to bring home pole position for that Aston Martin and for the GRL Motorsport team. It has been a dominant effort for them. Perfection, no mistakes. Just a couple more corners left to go to bring home the checkered flag and bring home pole position. The XCL Esports Ferrari 296, number 787, looking to bring home P2. Car number 23, the Fats GT Ferrari and the Super Swede number 2, both having contact together. The Fats GT gets back on track first. And coming through Tiergarten and Hohenrain, making it past the Super Swede number 1 Ferrari. The GRL Motorsport Aston Martin, piloted by Alex MG, will take home pole position in the XCL 2.4-hour qualifier and will start on pole in the 24 Hours in Hell, powered by XCL and ATR, in support of the Wildland Firefighter Foundation charity. XCL Esports looks to bring home P2 in GT3, and NRW Performance looks to bring home pole in GT4. Just a couple more turns coming through Tiergarten and Hohenrain for the Ferrari 296, the XCL Esports effort, as the rain is much lighter and will have gone away by the time this race is over. P2 for the XCL Esports official team, the number 787 car. And it looks to be P3 for the number 314 BMW. The Super Swede Racing number 1 car brought into the pit lane. The VRC Competizione cars scored P11 and P12. The number 314 BMW, but ahead of them, the number 777 Camaro GT4R will bring home pole position in GT4. That American V8 showing its power here in the 2.4-hour qualifier. Hard on the brakes into the final turn as they re-enter the GP Strecke. P1 for HSR Storm and NRW Performance in that Camaro GT4R, and pole position for NRW Performance in the 24 Hours in Hell next week. It will be P3 for the Team Titans BMW number 314. And the Old Goats Aston Martin Vantage GT4 will bring home P3 in GT4. P3 for the Team Titans number 314, but they do get a penalty for no driver swap, I believe. Either that or extending past a stint timer. I'm not 100% sure, but they do receive a 130-second penalty. And I think that may drop them back a few positions. Fabi Ist Schuld Motorsport will be next across the line to bring home provisional P4, as Team Titans is now in provisional P3. I don't think Team Titans will be scored P3 anymore, but we will have to wait until the official scoring. All results are unofficial until the race officials tally all of the results and have them posted. The AMG Motorsport in provisional P5. And Fatch GT will eventually bring home provisional P6 with the Super Swede Ferrari just behind. This is a race on track. I don't know how healthy these two cars are after their contact earlier on, but it is definitely a race for position here at the very end of the race. Also, another potential fight between the Pixel Motorsport and Schwitzer Motorsport teams. But Fatch GT and Super Swede number 2 doing battle here, just 2 seconds between them. And this is a fight Both drivers currently on the third row, but which one wants the inside, which one wants the outside? The fight is not over yet. Fatch GT trying to run away from the Ferrari of Super Swede number 2. And if they have another make another mistake, more contact, that would open up the door for the United E-Racing BMW to go past. Fatch GT just trying to hold on to their lead ahead of the Swedish Ferrari. And as they come into the Kleine Carousel, I don't think the Swedish Ferrari will be close enough for any slipstream by the time they get to the Dottinger Straight. And I believe Fatch GT will hold on to their P5 currently, as the rain has finally stopped as this race is coming to an end. GRL Motorsport as the Bremsbacken Spritzer Mercedes that finished P2 in GT4, doing some donuts behind. Fatch GT still ahead of the Super Swede Ferrari, and I don't think that Super Swede Ferrari number 2 will be able to catch the Ferrari of the Fatch GT esports team. Hard on the brakes as they come into the final turn of the track. As they re-enter the GP Strecke, it will be Fatch GT ahead of Super Swede number 2. United E-Racing will be the next across the line. The Old Goats Porsche also finishing in P6 in class. United E-Racing now coming across the line. The Euro Titans Endurance number 313 BMW will be next once they come down the Dottinger Straight. And we have a little bit of sun poking through for the first time. Very, very late for these change of conditions, as we had a wet race all the way from beginning to end, an absolute downpour for quite a large part of this race. But as the Euro Titans number 313 will bring that BMW home P8 in GT3. Orion Racing will bring it home P9. Pixel Motorsport and Schwitzer Motorsport both looking to bring their cars home as well. And the last car on track will be the Old Goats AMG GT4, having a little bit of an off, but getting that car back out on track and continuing marching forward. Euro Titans number 313 coming across the line. Orion Racing will also come across the line. And those 130-second penalties are for driver swaps. Those penalties will be manually removed and not included in the final results. GRL Motorsport will be starting on pole in GT3, and our W Performance will be starting on pole in GT4. Make sure you are with us next week, as I am not sure exactly when I will be broadcasting the 24 Hours in Hell, but I will be broadcasting part of it, and that streaming schedule will come out later this week. Schwitzer Motorsport following Pixel Motorsport to the line. Some more victory donuts from the number 99 Aston Martin GT3. The Schwitzer Motorsport Porsche GT4 coming across the line, and the Old Goats AMG may make it back. I believe that car is stalled and trying to get it started back up and get it turned around. exclusive number 788 in the pit lane. Orion Racing coming through the final corners now to finish their race. Should be able to make it. And they will be able to make it. Checkered flag for Orion Racing. The last car out on track is the Old Goats AMG, but I'm not sure they have returned to the garage. Well, that brings an end to the 2.4 hour qualifier. GRL Motorsport top of the board, P1 in GT3, Exclusive Esports P2, Fabi Ist Schuld P3, AMG Motorsport P4, Team Titans P5, Super Swede number 2, P6, United E-Racing P7, Fats GT P8, Euro Titans number 313, P9, Orion Racing P10, Super Swede Racing P11, VRC Competizione P12, Switzer Motorsport P13, Exclusive Esports number 788, P14, Velocity Endurance Racing P15, GHR K1 Esports P16, NRW Performance P1 on pole in GT4, Brents Backenspreitzer Racing P2 in GT4, Old Goats Vantage P3, Pixel Motorsport P4, Schwitzer Motorsport P5, Old Goats AMG P6, Old Goats Porsche P7, and Pro Endurance Team P8. Thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you are with us. Make sure you know where to tune in next week for the 24 Hours in Hell official broadcast. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you to XCL and ATR for holding this event. That is Xbox Community League and Aztec Racing. We will see you next week for the 24 Hours in Hell, powered by XCL and ATR. And we will have information on donating to the Wildland Firefighter Foundation this week, and make sure that that stream of donation is open to our viewers and supporters later on this week. Thank you all for tuning in.